I can't finish.
No, no, I understand.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Long Beach Community College Board of Trustee meeting for September 12, 2017. Madam Secretary, if you could please call the roll.
Board President Kellogg,
Here.
Vice President Zia,
Here.
Virginia Baxter,
Here.
Vivian Malauulu, and Doug Otto.
Here. Madam Secretary, this is the time for public comments on closed session items, a total of 3 minutes. Do we have any speakers that wish to address the board at this time?
No, there are none.
There are none. Thank you. We will adjourn to a closed session where the items will be real estate negotiations pursuant to government code, the property at 3320 and 3340 Los Coyotes Diagonal and 3325 Palos Verdes Avenue, Long Beach, California, known as the Los Coyotes site. We'll also deal with pending litigation pursuant to government code, conference with public agency law group, contract termination, and also we're going to be with a public employee, item 1.6 pursuant to government code, public employee discipline, dismissal, or release. And then final item, AFT negotiation item pursuant to government code. And then, I'm sorry, conference with labor negotiator pursuant to government code, agency designated representative, Dr. Reagan Romali, unrepresented employee, vice president. Those are the items before closed session. If there's no objection, we'll adjourn to closed session. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. The board met with its legal counsel in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Thank you so much. Direction was provided to the district's legal counsel to negotiate a purchase and sales agreement with Los Coyotes Diagonal Redevelopment LLC to be brought back to the board for approval in open session. That is the only item that was addressed in closed session. So we are now reconvened in open session. So this is of the Board of Trustee meeting, the Long Beach Community College. I will explain now. I am wearing a shirt for the record. My congratulations to Saddleback College in their hard-fought win against Long Beach City College this past weekend. My bet was with my friend, former friend, the president of the board for the South Orange Community College District, which includes Saddleback College, that the winning team would then have the board president of the losing team wear their shirt to their meeting. They did not say how long, so this will be coming off very quickly, but also I'm a man of my word, and so Tim, congratulations to you and Saddleback College, but we look forward to hopefully playing you in the playoffs, and I'm going to start making my bets based on our women's volleyball team from this point forward, I think. But anyway, congratulations to Saddleback College. And with that, I'm going to ask everyone to please stand. With our Vice President, first meeting here, Vice President Scott, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
It would be my pleasure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll of the Long Beach Community College Board of Trustees?
Virginia Baxter,
Here.
Jeff Kellogg,
Here.
Vivian Malauulu,
Here.
Doug Otto,
Here.
and Sunny Zia.
Here.
Thank you. And I unfortunately went out of order. I guess blame it on the shirt. But 2.4, I reported out on closed session item. Is that appropriate? Do I need to read it again, Madam Secretary?
No, I haven't.
You're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. The first item is the approval of the minutes for August 22nd, 2017, the regular board meeting.
So moved.
Trustee Zia, second by Trustee Otto. Are there any questions, comments on the approval of the minutes 2.5? If not, Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
That motion carries. Next item is 2.6, introduction of special announcements. I will turn it over to our superintendent president.
Thank you, sir. We are so excited tonight to make some introductions to you. I'm going to turn it over to Vice President Dr. Kathy Scott and Academic Senate President Jorge Ochoa to introduce the new faculty. Did I go out of order? Yeah. I think I got a little excited and went out of order with our new faculty. No, not at this time. I apologize. I got so excited about our new faculty, I went out of order. There are no other announcements. We'll get to them in a minute. Okay, so seeing no special announcements, I'd like to turn it over to Kathy Scott and Jorge Ochoa to welcome our brand new faculty. Thank you.
And Kathy, talk right into that microphone.
First of all, let me say, as the new acting vice president of academic affairs, this is an honor for me at the very first meeting to be able to say welcome to the new faculty. Hiring of full-time faculty is one of the most important things we do, and we're very pleased that you're here. And I'll turn it over to Academic Senate President Ochoa.
Thank you. And I had a wonderful time the first 2 days of being around the new faculty. So when they had their orientation, I shadowed them. And I had a nice opportunity to speak with many of them. And hopefully as the year goes by, I will have the opportunity to work with the rest. So I'm going to pass it on to Jerry Florence, whom I want to give a special thanks because she has done a magnificent job in guiding the new faculty and making sure that they feel welcome and loved here at Long Beach City College. So Jerry, would you?
Thank you, Jorge. Good evening, Superintendent President Romali, Board President Jeff Kellogg, members of the board, students, and Long Beach City College colleagues. My name is Jerry Florence, and I have the great privilege of serving as the Faculty Professional Development Coordinator. In this role, I've had the awesome opportunity of working with our new faculty cohorts. This fall, Long Beach City College welcomed 27 new faculty members to the ranks of tenure faculty. They are enthusiastic, motivated, dedicated, and ready to inspire the lives of the students in their classrooms. In mid-August, they participated in 2 full days of orientation at both the liberal arts and the Pacific Coast campuses. They will continue their professional growth by attending the College Culture Friday programs throughout their first year on campus. What an exciting time this is at Long Beach City College. In a little over 4 years, the college has embraced 145 new faculty. The infusion of creative ideas, content expertise, passion for student success can only signal great days ahead for the college. Some were not able to join us this evening due to their teaching schedules, but they are here in spirit. I'm going to ask those who are here if you would please stand and come toward the podium. They're going to tell you their names and their disciplines in which they teach. So come this way.
And then we're going to take a picture? Yeah. Okay. Without this shirt on. Yeah, I definitely.
And so this has kind of become a tradition for us in the last several years. They've all creatively embraced a moniker that has uniquely become theirs. And so tonight it is my pleasure to introduce the newest cohort of faculty who are referring to themselves as 3Cube. Now, in case you were in the humanities, as I was, I went, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So this is a very creative bunch. Jackie has their logo. They even have their own logo. And so Jackie has that paperwork for you so you can see. So let them introduce themselves to you.
Good evening. John Paul Almeida, Computer and Office Studies.
Hi, I'm Allison Hoffman, Film Studies.
Alina Yang, Reading.
Jeffrey Sable, Library.
Christine Charles, Mathematics and Engineering.
We're going to be taking a team photo, so you can all stay somewhat over here.
Megan Cummins, I teach economics.
Hi, Sergio Orozco, teach physics.
Maureen Baker, Accounting.
Natalie DeMoss, Mathematics and Engineering.
Andrea Calderwood, Vocal Jazz.
Hi, I'm Arlie Rinaldi. I teach chemistry and physical sciences.
Hi, I'm Loredana Vetere. I teach astronomy, and I take this opportunity to invite you to my first planetarium show, September 22nd.
Good evening, Imad Feltus, History Department.
Not that tall. Greetings all. Eric Bourne, DSPS Counselor.
Hola, Veronica Alvarez, Spanish, and I also want to invite you guys to our film festival we'll be having in the spring.
Michael Neal, I teach in Visual and Media Arts, Graphic Design.
Good evening, I'm Rebecca Villafana, and I'm in the Sociology Department.
Hello, I'm Veronica Njoku. I'm a DSPS counselor.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jerome Hunt, and I'm in Political Science.
Milo Alvarez, I teach history. Mommy had a longer meeting today, so I got tayari.
Before closing, I would like to give special thanks to Faculty Professional Development Senior Office Assistant Catherine Conchata, who we all lovingly refer to as Catherine the Great. Stand up, Catherine. So just a plug, she attended Long Beach City College and served as a presidential ambassador before transferring to UC Berkeley, where she earned her degree. So it's good to have her be a member of our team. On behalf of the new faculty, I would like to again thank Superintendent President Romali for joining us the first morning of orientation and sharing her vision of Long Beach City College and her enthusiasm for teachers and for students. And I hope that you will be able to join us often throughout this year for more conversation and great ideas. The 3Q faculty would like to present you with a photo that was taken last August that commemorates your visit with them at New Faculty Orientation. So thank you so much. Thank you, Reagan. Really serious. Thank you so much. Long Beach City College's comprehensive faculty professional development program is due to the ongoing support and commitment of the Academic Senate under the expert leadership of Senate President Jorge Ochoa. FPD is looking forward to working collaboratively with our new acting vice president, Dr. Kathy Scott. She brings a wealth of experience to Long Beach City College, both from having taught and been a part of an academic senate at a sister college. We welcome you, and we are looking forward to having you join us at a College Cultural Friday for lots of conversation. Finally, I would like to acknowledge the board secretary, Jackie Hahn, for her efforts behind the scenes to arrange for the faculty professional development and the new faculty cohort to be on the agenda this evening. We appreciate you, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Florence.
Where would you like us?
Are we standing here? Yeah, we're standing. Simone?
Okay. There, I fulfilled my obligation.
I like that. Pretty good throw.
Yeah. Whoa, do you need,
Always have a contingency plan.
do you need us to bunch in? John, what do you need us to do?
Yeah, I think we should.
Do you want us to get together?
Let's get a little more friendly. You guys seem
Do you want me to
distance
slide
apart.
that way? Or?
Should probably, like,
Yeah, everybody should get closer.
Yeah, but, okay, how's that? Doug,
Yeah.
hold on, Doug, and one more.
There we go.
one more. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations.
Welcome. Okay. There are, thank you all very much. There's comments. Chair recognizes Trustee Malulu.
I'm pretty sure my colleagues on the board will also extend the same welcome to you, but I would like to thank you for taking the time to be here, especially the little guy back there. I'm sure he'd rather be playing somewhere. Welcome. You will love being at Long Beach City College. You will love your faculty colleagues. And most of all, I hope you will love your students and that they're the reason why you continue to come and every day be inspired and inspiring with them. So welcome and have a wonderful first year.
Thank you. Other members? Chair recognizes Trustee Zia, Vice President Zia.
Thank you, President Kellogg. I too want to echo Trustee Malauulu's remarks. Welcome aboard. I'm excited to see such great diversity. I'm also excited to see fellow engineers, mathematicians hired. It's awesome. So like Trustee Malauulu mentioned, you're going to love it here. We're a family, and we can't wait to get to know you more. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Kellogg.
Trustee Baxter?
Yes, hi. Congratulations. Since she's putting in a plug, I'll put in a plug for the historians. 2 historians, very good. And political science, too. I'll throw you in there, too, in the same department. But if you ever want to know any of the dirt on LBCC, you ask me. 40-plus years.
Okay,
Trustee Baxter, they say imitation is the best form of flattery. So thank you.
Best of luck, Trustee Allen.
Well, congratulations. This event at the beginning of the year is only my second favorite event at the end of the year, when what we do is we have the newly tenured faculty meeting. We take everybody out, and so I'm sure that's what you all aspire to as well. Congratulations. You will find Long Beach City College to be a very warm and welcoming place, and we look forward to getting to know you better. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you all very much for taking your time to come here tonight, and wish you the very best. And we'll see you soon. Thank you all for coming here. Superintendent President, is that the only item you have this time?
Yes.
That is all? All right.
2.8 now.
We're then moving to the subject 2.8, reordering of the agenda. Trustee Zia has given me the following items to pull for further.
This is the one you want to just move for time. Her other items will be when you get to the consent.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. There's no other items then. Anyone on reordering of the agenda for time? Thank you, Madam Secretary. So we'll move on to the ASB President's Report and also the welcome of the ASB Cabinet. Welcome.
Thank you. So like you said, before I give my report, I'd just like to introduce a few of the ASB Cabinet members and student leaders who came by today. We only have a bit over half today. The other half is either at work or in class right now, so yeah, we're all pretty busy. So when you guys just come up here, please say your name, your major, your position, and where you're planning to transfer to.
How cool.
I think I did this before. Javier Salcido, ASB President, Political Science and Economics major, and I plan to either transfer to Cal State Fullerton or Long Beach.
Hi, Christian Lopez, Rep of Academic Affairs for ASB. I'm a bio major, and I'm planning on transferring to UCSB.
Hello, Jonathan Anisete, computer science major. Plan on transferring to UCLA or Irvine. And I'm the PCC vice.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paulo Canteras. I'm a psychology major, and I'm planning to transfer to UCI or UC San Diego. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jocelyn Reyes. I'm the rep of Student Services. My major is in sociology, and I plan to transfer to either UC Santa Barbara or UCLA.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edwin Martinez. I am a molecular and cell biology major, and I plan to transfer to either UCLA or UC Irvine, and I am the LEC vice president.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cameron Jeter. I am LAC Cultural Affairs Chairman. Major is computer science, and I would like to transfer to Cal State Long Beach.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nash Nada. I'm a business major, plan on transferring to Cal State Long Beach or Fullerton, and I am the ASB treasurer. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Wendy Mora. I'm the representative of Legislative Affairs, and my major is English, and I aspire to transfer to UCLA or USC. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna do a photo, so if everyone can bunch in again.
So some of them got the memo, and some of them didn't. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, really.
Who should I be with, the board, or should I be with the?
You know how this works.
Join the ASB down there.
Yeah, where you want to?
Great,
Slide
Eric.
in.
Wow, 5. Yeah, he just, yeah, because you just stood right in front of me.
Oh, slide over, slide over.
Oh, yeah.
Switch
Javier.
around.
He doesn't want to move. He
There
likes
you
right
go.
Wendy, yeah, there you go.
Look like you like each other.
It's the same thing. Yeah, so there you go.
This one is talking.
And there's another one right here.
Computer scientist.
Perfect.
Do you want to scoot over, Sonny? Thank you. Sonny, I was saying if you wanted him to scoot over.
I mentioned I don't think he heard. Thank you, Jeff. Wow, we look good.
Javier, I think you forgot to mention our ASB advisor. ASB advisor, Taylor.
Yeah, I was planning to do that afterward. You know, I introduced the students, and yeah, Taylor, could you stand up for us, real quick? She does like pretty much everything for us, so thank you very much. Also, that's Jorge in the back.
Hi.
Yeah, student trustee right there. So moving on with my report, all of our committee meetings are all set and have begun for the semester. Our ASB cabinet meets every Friday at noon, alternating between this room, T1100, and room EE 107 at PCC. Our Long Beach City College Week of Welcome was a success, being well attended with events occurring at both campuses throughout the first week of school. I'd also like to personally thank the trustees who came by, who helped out wrapping the hot dogs and pretty much giving them out to the students. That was really cool, amazing. Also, thank you, Jorge, for inviting them. Moving on, we're also looking forward to attending Seesaw in October and SSCCC's General Assembly in mid-November to not only build upon our student leaders, but also discuss resolutions and positions we take as a California community college system as a whole. This ASB cabinet has a strong connection to the club system, with just about all members serving as on and off campus student leaders prior to serving office, and having a strong devotion to community service in the greater city of Long Beach. I hope to build on the small successes we've had so far this semester and look forward to greater things for this academic year. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome, and thanks for all the work you're doing. Obviously, it's been, and thank you for inviting us whenever you can to come to your meetings and have some comments with all of you. So great job. Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Trustee Malulu.
Taylor, I know that majority of the students left. They probably had to go to work or go to class, but if you could just please let them know that, and I'll talk about this later too, that they did a great job with the Welcome Week. Both campuses, it was very well attended, well publicized. Keep up the great work. You're off to a really good start. And thank you for stepping up to fill some of those positions that hadn't been filled too. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments at this time? Hearing none. We're going to move on to the 2.10 public comment on agenda items. A total of 3 minutes will be allocated to each speaker with a maximum of 20 minutes for each subject matter, unless extended by the board president. There's 4 speakers that all request to speak on the same item, 8.1, the adopted budget. As was handed me, and I don't even know how to Burbridge, unless I really messed that one up. Kim Hatch, Matt Lawrence, Janae Hun. If those speakers, and you have 3 minutes on the items, please.
Hi, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Kim Hatch, and I'm Associate Professor in Physical Science and Geography Department here at Long Beach City College. I've been teaching for 15 years and here at LBCC, and I worked for 22 years in private industry for a local geotechnical engineering firm before I started here at LBCC. I reached a milestone this year, everybody. I turned 60. Right? So my family now says I'm officially a grumpy old man, okay? So hopefully for the next few minutes, I can channel that other grumpy old man, Bernie, and not Donald, okay? I want to comment about one-to-one lecture lab parity. To make it simple for those in the audience who don't know, I get paid, let's say, for simplicity, $1 for my lecture time, and only 75 cents for my lab time with my students. The 25 cents difference in our simple model is not new monies. All the community colleges get one-to-one payment from the state, but how each district shares that money with their lab instructors vary. Is that right, or is that an alternative fact? Is that, Anne-Marie, is that okay? Yeah, okay. So it's not unheard of other districts that pay one-to-one. To the district, I say that less than one-to-one is an arcane and unfair way to compensate your lab faculty at the college. LBCC is not an R1 research institution like Stanford or UCLA, where the professor lectures and hands off the laboratory component to a grad student who generally despises their assignment and just barely tolerates the undergraduate students. Our labs are taught by professors, not teaching assistants. Our labs are where hands-on, authentic learning takes place. In labs, we don't lecture about the piano. We teach the student how to play the piano. We don't talk about chemistry. We teach your students how to do chemistry. In lab, we don't talk about Spanish. We actually try to speak Spanish. And of course, you all get the idea. Labs are very important. It teaches students that reality is messy. Things don't always work out like the textbook, and you have to figure out why things went wrong. And it's just like real life. Our students, I consider to be emerging scholars.
Kim, hold on one moment. Is it back on? Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. They need that extra challenge and attention that they get in labs. So in summary here, I just want to say a word of wisdom from my wife. Happy wife, happy life. So let me extend it. Happy faculty, happy students, more FTES, happy administrators, and a happy college means one thing, accreditation. I challenge the district, you can make everyone happy. One-to-one lecture lab parity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. Am I waiting for the counter? Not intimidating at all, right? That red thing goes off. I teach anatomy and physiology for students pursuing nursing and other allied health careers. Both of these courses have combined and integrated lecture and lab components. In my department, anatomy and physiology labs are not taught as independent components, taught by another instructor. They are intentionally taught by the same person who teaches the lecture, because this best facilitates student success. My labs do not involve passive and independent activities with prescribed steps that students just do on their own. I don't consider my labs to be divided into lab and lecture. Instead, lecture and lab are actively interwoven throughout a class session. As you know, like Kim had mentioned, labs help students to learn holistically. As students learn by doing, lab work develops critical thinking skills, communication, and it increases the emotional component of learning by stimulating their engagement and their enthusiasm. As an educator, in order for me to facilitate the high level of cognitive and emotional learning that goes on in labs, I devote a significant amount of time to intentional and active pedagogy, both in and out of the classroom. For my physiology class, I have created numerous active learning lab activities that are engaging and reinforce the lecture material. My department colleagues and I regularly revise the lab material, lab manuals, so that they effectively integrate with lecture content. During the lab session, I spend a great amount of time interacting with students to explain important concepts. In physiology, I work with individual students to help them problem solve. When the experiments don't work properly, that's when the greatest learning takes place. I help them to critically analyze what might have happened. In my anatomy class, I help students find effective ways to study the lab material. When students are dissecting in anatomy, I actually show them how to dissect. At the end of class, there is significant grading and assessment of students' lab work. In anatomy, students write and draw in lab manuals, and that needs to be graded. In physiology, my students submit lab reports that reflect their individualized accounting of what they learned, what they did, how they analyzed their work. These reports take a substantial amount of time to evaluate, critique, give them individualized comment and feedback, and return to them so that they can learn to improve their future work. Throughout my 18 years of teaching science labs and lecture, I have always added students above the cap of the course, and I invest quality teaching and time into my labs, probably more so than for...
Stop right there. Go ahead, so the microphone doesn't... All right, go ahead.
I strongly believe that there needs to be lecture-lab parity. The state funds LBCC fully for labs, and it is only equitable that faculty are compensated for the time and teaching that we invest into all components of our class. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. And also thank you. The last two speakers, both you came up prepared text, so I know you were not just sitting up there just going on. So my appreciation for actually taking the time to prepare comments.
Good evening, President Romali and the board and others. My name is Matt Lawrence. I teach philosophy. I've been with the college about 20 years, and now I'm worried that maybe I should have prepared my remarks. I'm hoping I'll be able to wing it all right. I'm here to talk about salary. Soon the Faculty Association will be sending you some of the research they've been doing on salary. In particular, we're concerned about salary at the column 7 for PhDs. We've got so many new faculty at this college, and it's really great. I've been here 20 years. It seems like more new faculty over the past few years than I have ever seen, and it's a lot of vibrancy and enthusiasm, and it's really awesome. But simultaneously, I think we've got fewer old-timers than I have ever seen, and it's weird to consider myself now an old-timer. But when you look at the salary scale, especially column 7 for PhD, when you compare to similar colleges in the area, we tend to rank pretty poorly in salary. We tend to be at the bottom for PhDs that have that are at the higher steps, starting from maybe 12 on. So, and especially so when you get to the far end of the scale with the most longevity. Often the difference between neighboring colleges is 10%, sometimes more. If we compare to our neighbor Cerritos, it's about a $10,000 difference for those at the end of the scale with the PhD. So as we continue with salary negotiations, I would just like to encourage the board to take a good look at that and be expecting some information on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaker.
Good evening, Board, President Romali, administrators, faculty, staff, students, and community. I would like to echo the sentiments of my colleagues. I am Janae Hunt, our Long Beach City College Faculty Association President and Sociology faculty. And I would like to echo the sentiments of my colleagues who've spoken to agenda item 8.1, the adopted budget for 2017-18. First, though, I would like to express my support for President Romali's leadership on increasing enrollment at Long Beach City College. And speaking specifically to the budget, in reviewing the adopted budget PowerPoint, I see that there's a $2 million surplus. That actually, I was quite surprised to see this. This represents a $12 million gap, as last year this board approved an adopted budget with a $10 million anticipated deficit spending. Again, this is pretty surprising news in a sort. I noticed in the adopted budget, we end up increasing our reserves to now 30 million or 24%, which is well above the board agreed goal of 5.5% in reserves. So we have a healthy budget and reserves. But actually, it's really not that surprising when I view the trend analysis, our budget trend analysis, of which I would like to share a copy with President Romali and the members of the board, please. So what I'm giving you is a 10-year trend analysis of our projected expenditures versus the actual expenditures, and all of the data is based on the district data. And so 10 out of the last 12 years, we see that our district anticipated budget reserves actually increased rather than decreased, right? So we actually have added, we've had a surplus, not a deficit. So clearly Long Beach City College does not have a structural deficit, as we are most frequently not spending all of the revenues each year. And so this is relevant as we continue to negotiate. We are hoping to arrive at a fair contract this year. And the trend analysis shows that the district does have...
Stop. Back on.
Okay, thank you. The trend analysis does show that the district has the money to invest in faculty. We are urging the board to guide the district's negotiations to agree to a fair contract, so we faculty can busy ourselves with delivering student success, which is the board agreed upon goal number 4. And also your goal number 1 is executing the strategic plan, of which is based on the values of nurturing, purposeful, respectful, focused, and connection. In summary, we would love to reach a fair contract, and we look forward to positive negotiations this fall. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no other public comments on agenda items. We will move to item 3.1, which is public hearing authorizing request for a waiver seeking the exemption in use of funds from the sale of property. This again will be a hearing, so let me just read into the record. The Long Beach Community College District is required to conduct a public hearing authorizing a request for waiver from the Board of Governors pursuant to Ed Code Section 81250 related to the proceeds from the sale of the district's property located at 3320, 3340 Los Coyotes Diagonal and 3325 Palo Verde Avenue, Long Beach, California 90808. The district desires to request a waiver of the surplus property procedures under Educational Code Section 81363 in order to be allowed to utilize the proceeds from the sale for purposes other than capital outlay and deferred maintenance. Waiver requests must be submitted to and approved by the Board of Governors of the California Community Colleges. The Board of Governors shall not approve any request for waiver of surplus property pursuant unless the district seeking the waiver demonstrates that, number one, the district has conducted a public hearing to be held by the district on the subject whether or not to request a waiver from the Board of Governors pursuant to Educational Code Section 81250. Two, granting the waiver will not substantially increase state cost or decrease state revenues. And three, the waiver will further the ability of the district to meet the educational needs of the community. Notice of this public hearing has been posted in 3 separate locations within the district's boundaries. So this is the time set aside for the public to express its views on the request for waiver seeking exemption for use of funds from the sale of property. I know everyone was excited. Wait for response. They're hearing no response. I now declare this public hearing closed. The resolution for waiver is listed under item 8.3 in this agenda for discussion and a vote. As you know, we previously sought and received a waiver of the surplus property procedure under Educational Code Section 81360 in order of the purchase and sale So good. I don't have to read anything else besides that it's going to be listed on 8.3, and I'll stop at that. Thank you. That is the public hearing on that item. The next item, 3.2, public hearing on the proposed budget of the district for this year ending June 30th, 2018. Again, this is a California Code of Regulations claim the governing board of each community college shall hold a public hearing on the proposed budget for the ensuing fiscal year on or before the 15th day of September, but at least 3 days allowing availability of the proposed budget for public inspection. So at this time, this is the time set aside for the public to express its views on 2017-2018 adopted budget. If there is no one wishing to respond on this item, then I will now declare the public hearing is closed. And we will move on to the next item before the board. I follow all that right, Madam Secretary? We are good. Next item, 3.3, revised board policy and administrative regulation pursuant to governance. This is going to be an action item. This one is, I'm going to read the board approves the board revised board policy 2006, participation in governance as submitted. Participation in governance was presented for its first reading at the board meeting of August 22nd. This is a revised administrative regulation. Participation in governance is submitted for information purposes only. Does not require board action. Yet it does require board action. We are voting on this item, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So moved.
I'll just read the rest. Again, it is a board policy. I'm sure it's something that people have questions on this. It's just, that's what we do. So there's a motion by Trustee Malauulu, second by Trustee Zia. Questions from members of the board on item 3.3, revised policy? Any? None? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
That motion carries. Item 3.4. This is an informational item. This is an announcement of intent to reappoint the board's appointee to the Personnel Commission. The Board of Trustees announced an intention to reappoint Richard Gaylord to the Personnel Commission for the 3-year term commencing December 1st, 2017, and ending at noon on December 1st, 2020, in accordance with California Education Code, with Chapter 2.1B1 of the Long Beach Community College District Personnel Commission Rules and Regulations. This is informational item only, so there's no vote. Question, comments at this time for the members of the board?
President Kellogg.
Chair recognizes Vice President Zia.
I just wanted to congratulate Dick Gaylord on his reappointment and his service to the district. I don't know, I don't see him in the crowd, but just wanted to thank him for his contribution to the district.
And so this is a process for the public that is driven through the Ed Code and our Personnel Commission. There are 3 people part of that commission. One is appointed by the board, one is appointed by the classified staff, and then the 2 of them decide on the 3rd individual to represent the Personnel Commission. Not all colleges have a Personnel Commission. Sometimes they do not, and therefore the Board of Trustees assume our responsibilities. The notice of this came to all of our attention on August 3rd. And I could ask if Superintendent President, if you want to explain the process at all, but if not, if there's any other questions, comments at this time, again, this is informational. This will be laid over for a later meeting for an actual vote on this appointment. But the review period began on August 3rd and ended essentially now. So other comments, questions, members of the board at this time? Again, informational, no vote required. Hearing none. We'll move on then to the next item. Presentations. This item 4.1, this is an informational item. It is on the accreditation midterm report. We're going to have Jennifer Holgram and Jeff Wheeler, who have kindly volunteered to steer this project. So at this time, I will, Superintendent President, I will turn it to you, and then you can direct in which way. But this is 4.1, Informational Accreditation Midterm Report. And welcome to Jennifer and Jeff.
Hi, I'm very excited tonight to introduce you to Professor Jeff Wheeler and Interim Director of Planning Jennifer Holmgren, who has assumed the role of Accreditation Liaison Officer, which is important for many reasons, but one of the most important reasons is she was a member of the classified staff when she was appointed to be the ALO, and that is really groundbreaking in this state, and it speaks volumes. So we're so proud of our classified team. She and Jeff have done a tremendous job putting together this interim report. They're going to tell you about what our findings have been and all of the work that the faculty, staff, administrators, and students have done to address those, and also what the evidence contains. So Jennifer and Jeff, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, President Kellogg, trustees, Superintendent, President Romali, administrators, staff, faculty, students, and community members. We're here to present a draft of the accreditation midterm report and an overview of this. Just to describe the process a little bit, the midterm report contains a variety of things. It starts with a description of the process that we use to develop the report, how the report is structured, as well as who we brought this draft of the report to and who we plan to bring this draft of the report to in order to gather more feedback and input into the report. It also includes an area where we readdress the 2 recommendations that we received in 2015 following our 2014 self-evaluation that we submitted to ACCJC. In this portion of the report, at the time we had received the 2 recommendations, we had to submit a follow-up report in March 2016. And ACCJC found that both of our recommendations have been resolved at that time. We still have to address these in the midterm report, and so we've split that section up into what we did to address each recommendation up to the follow-up report, and then what we have done since submitting the follow-up report to address the recommendation. We have identified progress on all of our self-identified plans for improvement. This has been working with co-chairs identified from the College Planning Committee for each of the standards, and so they have provided some updates and evidence for us for those. There's a new portion of the report. It's a data trend analysis, and so this portion contains data information that we submit every March in an annual report to ACCJC. They requested that we put trends for the past 3 years that we've submitted in these areas, as well as analyze these trends and kind of what they mean. And then the final portion of the report is the evidence, and it's a listing of all of the different evidence that we have cited in the report. We did not include that in the draft that we provided to the board, but we are happy to provide any of the evidence to you if you would like to see any of that. It just made the draft really lengthy, so for the time being, we just have it cited.
I'm going to go ahead and list brief. I mean, we have the. I want to talk briefly about the recommendations that in some ways make up a large bulk of this report. The report has many bulks, but this is an important piece. We're addressing the two recommendations that the team made after our self-evaluation in 2014. The first one is about addressing communication problems, increasing transparency and trust through timely input processes in decision-making, and better integration of plans with improvement priorities, hiring, and resource allocation. And I'm briefly going to give an overview of what is in the report about this. So the first part of the report includes the material that was included in the follow-up report responding to those evaluations. I'm not going through these details right here. The board has copies of the draft, and this draft will be published in about a week or so for the college community at large. And we are in the process of vetting this report with a number of constituent groups. I did want to say a couple of things about the second part of the response to recommendation 1, that there have been significant sort of changes that the CPC has produced in reaction to these responses to increase the sort of transparency and the organization of the college. And then finally, the third section of this, the response to recommendation 1, is a section that talks about ongoing efforts that are happening at the college. And let me briefly then also look at the second recommendation, where we were charged to utilize SLO assessment results to improve SLOs, inform integrated planning decisions, including resource allocations and improvements across the college. Again, the first part of this summarizes what was in the follow-up report. In the second part, a lot of information, a lot of evidence is presented there. The one thing I wanted to point to is that as the department plans were reviewed, one sort of interesting thing that came out of this is the extent to which SLO assessment is being tied to resource requests and actions at the department level, which is one of the best indications we've seen that this recommendation is really having an effect on college culture. And then finally, the ongoing efforts that are going on to address this particular recommendation.
The other part that we wanted to highlight, since it's a new portion of the midterm report for all colleges, is the reporting of the data trend analysis. And so in this section, there is data for the past 3 years on student course completion, transfer, licensure exam pass rates for those programs that require licensure exams, and other types of data. And just to highlight a few things, one of the data points that they asked us to look at are associate degrees for transfer, or our degrees and the trend line over the past 3 years. And what we see is a growth in our awarding of degrees, and that's primarily because of our creation and awarding of the associate degrees for transfer. We've seen those awards really grow exponentially over the past 3 years. And another area that we were asked to provide analyses on was course success. And we know from our college scorecard, as well as our data here at the college, that our course success rates overall have remained fairly consistent. We are working in institutional effectiveness with all of the instructional departments across the college to provide them data each year on their course success rates, as well as other data, so that they can really examine this and drill down into it to determine ways to address this. The other portion of the data trend analysis is our annual fiscal report data for the past 3 years. And this includes areas like general fund performance and other post-employment benefits. All right, are there any questions?
Questions, members of the board at this time? This is the midterm report. Chair recognizes Trustee Otto.
Yeah, I'm intrigued because I don't understand it, what this disaggregation of SLOs is and how's it done and how's it work?
Yeah, so the disaggregation of SLOs, this is actually a new standard that is in the 2014 ACCJC standards. They are asking all colleges to disaggregate student learning outcomes, and this is something that our college is working to address by placing student learning outcome assessments on the college's learning management system, which was Moodle and now is Canvas. The two SLO coordinators who lead the ASLO subcommittee are working with faculty to place those onto there. And so basically what that allows us to do is have students take the assessments for student learning outcomes online. We can then attach their results to their student ID numbers because they took it online. And we have an educational assessment research analyst entirely dedicated to disaggregating student learning outcome results in our Office of Institutional Effectiveness. And so we've seen growth of faculty wanting to put their assessments on the LMS. It went from, I think, 2 courses on the LMS in 2016 to now we have 60 courses this year in fall being placed on the LMS for disaggregation.
So the way that it works is that the students take a test on the SLOs, and then you have that data, and it's anonymous based just on student numbers, and then you disaggregate it by sex, by ethnicity.
Exactly,
Okay.
which the ASLO subcommittee is currently working on kind of a list of the ways that they want to recommend that faculty disaggregate, and so that's going to include gender, ethnicity, et cetera, but they haven't formalized that list yet.
Okay.
Mhm.
Other questions, members of the board at this time? Hearing none. Jeff, Jennifer, thank you very much. That's a big lift, and it's obviously critical to the college, so thank you for the report and the update. Superintendent President, do you have any comments at this time?
Just that I wanted to thank you so much. You guys have done a tremendous job, and I want to thank the faculty, staff, and administrators who have pulled together to support you. I want to congratulate you for representing us so well and so accurately, for all the hard work that folks have done to make this happen and have these issues rectified.
Thank you. That was informational item only, no vote required. We're now to the consent calendar. Trustee Zia has requested the following items to be removed from consent. Item 5.10, item 5.12, item 5.13. With that, 3 exceptions. Is there any other items need to be pulled for further discussion at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the remaining consent calendar.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Zia, second by Trustee Baxter. Any comments at all? Hearing none. Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll on the remaining consent calendar items? They go too fast.
12, 13.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
We are now on the consent calendar item 5.10, which I'm going to actually ask for a motion to approve, and then we'll have the discussions. Could I entertain a motion to approve item 5.10?
So moved.
Trusted by Trustee Baxter, second by Trustee Otto on item 5.10, bond contracts awarded. Question, comments, members of the board. Chair recognizes Vice President Zia.
Thank you, President Kellogg. I sent in my questions earlier today, and I believe, just for the benefit of the public, there was printouts of the Q&A in case you're interested, and for the members of the public at home, if they're watching and don't have the luxury of being here, I'll just repeat the question. And the question is on this agenda item 5.10, which is the first contract, CN 22069.3 with GKK Works, that's effective September 13, 2017 through project completion for a total contract amount of $191,000. And in the background, it goes on to say that we're choosing this architect to provide architectural, engineering, assessment, planning, and programming design to create criteria documents for the state-funded design-build project Building M. And my question is pertaining to why we are paying $191,000 to have someone put together a criteria document and why we can't do this work in-house.
Superintendent President?
Yes, ma'am. We do have an answer to that question, and I'm going to hand it to Vice President Gable to address that.
Vice President Gable.
Thank you, President Romali. So what criteria documents are, they're also called bridging documents. So as you may recall, the state has approved our buildings M and N as a design build project that is going to be partially state funded. And one of the requirements of the state chancellor's office is that we develop what they call criteria documents before we can do the bid or the RFP to select the design entity or contractor when we go out to bid. So what the what the bridging documents or criteria documents include is really a complete analysis of what the project is going to entail. It includes the specifications that are needed. It includes the space adjacencies of the amount of lecture, the amount of lab, the amount of office space, those types of things that are going into it, as well as engineering analysis and testing that is done from the experts. So it is required that an architect prepare these bridging documents. We do not have licensed architects on our staff, and so it is not something that we can do in-house.
And what is that value? Why is it $191,000?
We did do a request for proposals to select some architects, and this was the architect that was selected in accordance with that process.
And how many proposals did we get?
3.
How long was it advertised?
It wasn't advertised. This is one of the architects that every 5 years we go out and we do a selection to have kind of a slate of architects on board. And so we reached out to the architects that were on that list and received responses from them.
So we had, let me just make sure I understand, we had only 3 people on that list to draw upon, is that right?
No, there are more than that on the list, but we reached out to the 3 that have expertise in the type of building that's being built.
Okay, so the original solicitation was for a broader scope than this? How did you pick the 3?
So we went to the list of architects that have been approved based upon the RFQ that was done, and we looked at the specialties of the various architects and then reached out to 3 of the different firms that we felt specialized in the project that was needed and got the quotes from them.
How many people were on the list that you plucked 3 from?
I believe there's 10.
So you pretty much cherry-picked 3 out of the 10 based on expertise that we felt was applicable, correct? I mean, 3 out of 10 is hand-picking. Sounds like it. Just want to understand the process. And the $191,000, what was the spread between that value versus the other 2?
I don't have that information with me tonight.
Okay. Were they the most competitive in pricing and qualification?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I don't have any further questions on this item, President Kellogg.
Other questions, members of the board, at this time on item 5.10? Hearing none, there is a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on that item.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Next item pulled is item 5.12, ratification contracts under $175,000. Could I first entertain a motion to approve the item? Motion by Trustee Malauulu, second by Trustee Zia. Discussions, members of the board. Chair recognizes Vice President Zia.
Thank you, President Kellogg. I'm looking at these, and I don't necessarily have an objection. My question, I've raised this multiple times, both on this item and the following item. It's very difficult to tell the consultants, contractors, vendors that we do business because it's piecemealed each time within the period that we meet. What the term is within that timeline, and then also what the value is for that specific vendor. I'd like to understand the total value to date from the inception of doing business with particular vendors. And I'd like to see if we have a system, or perhaps it's something that is in the works. So, like, for example, if someone were to ask how much business or how much expenditure is attributed to quarry engineering and testing, and I'm just picking this out of the first one here, we could say from inception to date, we have done X amount of dollars. We have given X amount of dollars to this particular consultant or vendor. Do we have something that we can pull up? I just want to know how much business we do with each vendor each time it comes up.
Vice President Gable.
So we do not have a report that comes out of the system that would give us the analysis of how much we spend with any one vendor. What we present to the board are the individual contracts that we're entering into the vendor with the vendor, and so the amounts per that contract is what we're requesting the board to ratify.
Right, and my question is, can we see total cumulative to date? Because what you show in these reports that we get, that we are asked to approve, is only for a set term that is within, the period that we meet. Like, for example, August 14 is the commencement of this first contract till project completion. It doesn't even have a final date of a set term. So have we not done business with this vendor before? Is that what I'm supposed to make the inference from this report? I'd just like to understand what's the cumulative value to date that we've done business with these folks.
Right, and that's what I indicated. We do not have a report that comes out of the system that would show that information.
Well, I understand from your system, but don't we have a repository that we could keep track of how much business we do with people, or how much we spend on contracting per vendor? If we don't, can we create one? And I don't want some expensive consultants and professional services. This should be something that our in-house folks can create a repository. And I'm just not going to buy spending money, and I won't advocate for it or approve of it, to give more funding for this business process consultant to come up with that. If we don't have it, it does give me consternation that we don't know how much we're spending on each vendor, and I'd like to have an idea, just so we're preventing any kind of lack of competition or perception of evergreen contracting. Is that possible?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something?
I just said, is that possible? Can we have that codified somewhere, or perhaps have a system where you guys can keep track of how much business we're giving these folks, or how much we're spending on each vendor?
Thank you so much for your question. How about if we take that back, look into it much further, what would be involved, is there cost involved, what all the details of that would be, and be able to get back to you on that with some further detail.
Sure, that sounds good.
Other questions, members of the board, on item 5.12? Hearing none, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on item 5.12.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Next item, 5.13, this is purchase order ratification, pulled by trustee Zia. Could I entertain a motion, though, to approve and second this item? Motion by trustee Zia, second by trustee Baxter. Discussion. Chair recognizes Vice President Zia.
Yeah, same question here. Let me just give you an example. For example, I see open purchase orders. Almost inevitably, and I'm not trying to pick on this particular vendor, David Joel McDonald for catering services peppered through all purchase orders that we get for approval. And I see 4,000 piecemealed here, 6,000 here, 200 for this department. I just want to understand how much in totality we're approving for that vendor. It's very difficult when it's bits and pieces here and there each time, and that's really what I'm asking for, just so we have an idea. And it sounds like it's something that you guys will be working on.
Yes, thank you. That's a very valid point, and I definitely understand why you would responsibly want that information. So let me take this back to this team, bat it around a little bit, and see what we might be able to do to satisfy that question.
Great, thank you.
Other members of the board at this time? Chair recognizes trustee Malauulu.
So I appreciate Trustee Zia's bringing up these specific questions, and it goes back to several times that I was asking about when a purchase order is opened for X amount, we never really get a consolidation in a timely manner. Usually it takes months for us to actually see what the amount of the contract was, and I've always asked what happens to that excess. So I believe it was at the last board meeting where the issue came up again, where a purchase order was opened, or, you know, a proposal was opened for X amount, but, you know, we approved it and we never actually know how much was spent. So to keep it simple, maybe the purchase order was for $100,000, but what if the actual bottom line was $50,000? What happens to that $50,000 that is not used? Does it remain in the budget? Where does it go? Where do we see it? So I think that when you guys, when you get together and prepare a report that has the answers to the questions Trustee Zia specifically asked, I would also like to see moving forward, and again, this isn't the first time that I brought that up, is to see what happens to the amount that is initially prepared for, budgeted for, but not actually used. Where does that money go? And what part of the budget, is it in the general fund? Categorically, where does that fit in? So, again, it's not a specific request for one particular item. It's a general request for everything when we have that excess in spending. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely draw that up for you. I'll say a short answer now, but we'll get you a more detailed answer later. Essentially, typically contracts are fully spent, but in the example or in the case where they're not, that extra leftover money releases and rolls back into the budget line as available funds that could be spent on something else. If that ultimately does not get spent by the end of the year, it rolls into your fund balance. But we'll get that detailed out for you. Yeah.
Other questions, members of the board at this time? Hearing none, there's a motion and second on the floor. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto. And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
That concludes our consent calendar. We're now to Human Resources. Item 6.1, Employment Contract. This is for an action item, recommended action that the Board of Trustees approve the employment contract for Gabriel Rivera, Director, Track and Field Cross Country Head Coach, as submitted. This employment contract provides for a term of employment from September 15, 2017 through June 30th, 2019. The contract provides for an annual compensation of $92,540, health and welfare benefits, and life insurance as well. Could I entertain a motion and second on this item? Motion
So
by Trustee
moved.
Zia, second by Trustee Malauulu. I heard everybody. There's a motion and second. Are there questions, comments on this item, 6.1? Hearing none.
Welcome aboard.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
6.1 employment contract is approved. Item 6.2 employment contract. Action item that the Board of Trustees approve the employment contract for, I could say Katie, but it's Ketmani Sandara. Approves the employment contract, acting Associate Dean, Career, Technology, Education as submitted. This employment contract provides for a term of employment from September 5th, 2017 through December 31st, 2017, unless otherwise terminated earlier. The contract provides for an annual compensation of $113,809, health and welfare benefits, and life insurance. There's a motion and a second.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any comments on this item? Item 6.1. If not, Madam Secretary.
I don't think we got a second, President
He
Kellogg.
did not. Who's the second?
It was me.
Baxter.
I had a whole host of people. So Trustee Baxter.
Got it. Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
The employment contract carries on item 6.2. Because as we sit here, and sometimes people don't realize, we as a board, we get these contracts, but we get essentially the cover and just a very simple on the resolution. That's what we do, signs. Someone had asked me if we look at the entire contract. No, we do not. We do not get the entire document. That is done by our administrative staff. But we do approve it here. But if you asked us the extreme details of the contract, I probably, unless we dive into it, would not know. We signed essentially this one-page cover sheet. That concludes on the employment contract. Next item subject is the administrative stipend, 6.3. This is an action item. This was the item that was carried over. This is for the approval for former Executive Vice President Luann Bynum. It's a stipend in the amount of $1,292.39 to be paid for the period of August 1st, 17 through August 30th, 2017, for the purpose of assuming the duties of the Vice President, Academic Affairs, pending the arrival of the acting Vice President. This item was pulled simply because it had not gotten onto the agenda early enough for us to review. It was put on for that reason only. So I will, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the item. Motion by Trustee Zia, second by Trustee Baxter. On this, discussion, members of the board at this time. Any all? None? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on this item.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
The next item, 6.4, administrative stipend, the same scenario. I'm sorry. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Trustee Zia, second by Trustee Malauulu. On this one, this is a stipend in the amount of $2,268.57 paid to the period of August 1st, 2017 through September 24th, 2017 for the purpose of assuming the duties of the Vice President Student Support Services pending the arrival of the Interim Vice President Student Support Services. That is the motion and second on the floor. Comments, members of the board at this time? Chair recognizes Trustee Malauulu.
So, first of all, this comment goes to both 6.3 and 6.4, even though it'll be stated in the 6.4 section. I would just like to once again thank Vice President Bynum and Vice President Gable for stepping up and filling in the void by our two departing vice presidents, especially so close to the beginning of the school year. It was very important what they did. You know, from what I've been hearing, you know, Vice President Gable has been here till midnight, many nights working, so we really appreciate that. And I don't know about the other board members, but I have gotten some interest from members of the college staff about these items. And I would just like to say that not to take anything away from the two vice presidents having earned these stipends at all. Certainly they have. But we as a board have committed to looking into the issue moving forward and to develop some policy or procedures so that it's not questionable. It's fully transparent, it's not challenged, it doesn't seem unfair, but also to reward the many administrators and staff members who may in the future be called to help and who may be needed to step in and fill in a void. So we are going to work on a process to make sure that it is addressed, that it is fair, and that a laborer is worth his wages. So we want to make sure that we cultivate a culture of rewarding staff members who step up and do a little bit extra without taking advantage of the workers. I hope that made sense, but I feel it's important to say that, especially because I know there are people following this issue, and it would be, it would be negligent for us to just ignore that. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe after talking to members of the board on this item that probably one of the things to do is to turn to our superintendent president. There was questions that came up about whether we have any policy regarding this, how we deal with it, and I did ask the question that the superintendent president asked specifically for people to do additional work. I also say only because we had some people speak. There are some colleges that have actually an accreditation officer. There's a person dedicated 100% solely to dealing with the accreditation. You saw two individuals that is not their main job description. They're doing that in addition to. Now this is so specifically, I think the comments that to ask the superintendent president to possibly in the next 30, 60, 90 days, come back to us with some type of idea what would be a good policy in this area that we all feel comfortable about, because that's what came out of it, not whether the worthiness of the individuals doing the work, being asked to do the work and performing the work, but more just to give us some direction in the future. And I think that's what I was hearing from my colleagues. Other members of the board at this time? None? I'm sorry, Superintendent
No,
President?
thank you. We will absolutely do so. We will try to also get you some information where we can benchmark against other institutions and come up with a rubric that you feel comfortable with in the future.
All right, thank you.
Can I just
Other
add?
comments? Sure,
Yes,
as
President.
Trustee Zia.
I just want to say that, this was a much deserved stipend on both accounts, and I want to applaud Superintendent President Dr. Romali for recognizing good work and good behavior and rewarding it. That's all I have.
And I'd also like to thank the fact that this came up after we do a review. When I say they, it's the board president and with the superintendent president, we'll go through the agenda. This item, we go through it, and then this showed up after we'd gone through the review. So when I did ask her the questions as far as there was no issue at all about individuals being compensated after our superintendent president had talked to them about doing this. So, but I think it was important that we do have at least some discussion and for future possibly helping us with some policy. So thank you. Members of the board, any other questions at this time? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Thank you. We're now to Student Support Services 7-point run. This is the revised 2017-18 academic calendar. The background material is, but this essentially is for the summer session be changed from June 18th, August 18th, 2018, with a 6-week and a 8-week session in June 13th, August 21st, 2018. The only reason I bring that up in the item is because this is really ties into what we're trying to do with our enrollment management and things of that nature. So Superintendent President, do you have any comments on this at this time?
I sure do. Thank you so much. I really want to commend the calendar committee because they did something very, very critically important to this, which is going to link to our enrollment management plan. And what they did is they came up with opportunities for 2 additional back-to-back 5-week sessions in addition to the 6-week and the 8-week sessions. And this does many things for us. It allows for us to maintain academic rigor in a longer-term session, but also offer opportunities for shorter-term sessions where academically appropriate that students can get through their completion sequence. So this is going to aid completion. It also gives us revenue and FTES flexibility when it comes to revenue attainment and FTES generation, and that's really key. So it addressed not only revenue and FTES, but it addressed academic integrity and completion, and I think that was tremendous teamwork there, really to be commended for that.
Thank you. Other members of the board at this time? You notice the next 3 items are all tied into each other. So, and I apologize, I did not get a motion and second for the revised calendar, so I'll do so now. Motion by Trustee Malauulu, second by Trustee Zia on the revised 2017-18 academic calendar. Other comments, members of the board at this time? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item, 7.2, is a continuation, 2018-2019 academic calendar. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Zia, second by trustee Baxter. Question, comments, members of the board at this time? Hearing none. Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll? By the way, on my agenda, I did not see this time, so if I don't do it, if you could please correct me. Last time, we asked for advisory votes, and I'm not seeing it thus far.
We did not.
That's, you, and your excuse was what? You were at your family wedding. Okay, we'll let that one go. But my apologies, because I'm looking over at you and going, if these are the items, just tell me and I'll ask for the student trustee.
Probably more important than anything else.
So, student trustee, advisory vote, please.
Aye. Fine.
Madam Secretary.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 7.3, this is the 2019 and 2020 academic calendar. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Motion by trustee Baxter, second by trustee Otto. Comments, questions, members of the board at this time? Hearing none. Student trustee, advisory vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, roll.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Thank you. Administrative Services, 8.1, 2017-18 Adopted Budget and Educational Protection Account Expenditure Plan. At this time, I'll turn it over to Vice President Gable.
Thank you, Board President Kellogg. So tonight I'll go through the adopted budget that's being presented to you for approval tonight.
And I'm sorry, Anne Marie, just so for board members, if it is acceptable, if we'll let the presentation finish, and then we'll ask questions at the end of the presentation, just as we did with the previous ones. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background on where the end results were with the state budget. And we have identified where some of the major expenditures fit in with our strategic plans, as well as our institutional priorities. We have a chart on our FTS history, and then we'll go over really the unrestricted general fund in detail. So the state budget was signed back in June by Governor Brown. It provided for $57.8 million in growth funding for community colleges. You will see that we have budgeted zero in growth because we are anticipating that we're going to go into stabilization in 17-18, but I'll explain that a little bit later when we get to the FTES chart. There was $97 million, or a 1.56% COLA provided, which represents about $1.8 million in additional revenue for us. There was $183.6 million, or about a 3.17% base allocation increase, which brings in approximately $3 million for us. There was also $76.9 million for deferred maintenance and instructional equipment. Our share of that is about $1.4 million. The Budget Advisory Committee has recommended that we split that funding equally between deferred maintenance and instructional equipment, so that's what is presented within the budget. A new program has been created of $150 million for guided pathways. This is one-time funding that is a state program so that we can better integrate an institution-wide approach to student success. We don't know how much we're going to be receiving from the state for this. The allocations will not be out until January or February, or possibly even March. We do know that there are several steps, and it is going to coincide with the California Guided Pathways project that we are one of 20 colleges participating in, but we are going to have to do a little bit different criteria in order to qualify for the funding coming from the state on this. So more to come on that. We do know we're getting money, we just don't know how much. And then we also had Proposition 51, you may recall, was passed by the voters, which provided $2 billion for California community colleges for capital outlay. The governor approved 15 projects for that, and he only approved really the criteria documents or the bridging documents for our M&N building, the design build building, but then he just approved the preliminary drawings for the other projects. So a total of $16.9 million was put into the state budget for these projects. We were fortunate enough to get 2 of those 15 projects, as you can see there, our M&N building, which is in dire need of repair, as well as our MM building at the PCC campus. So moving into kind of how we based what we're going to spend the money on in this budget, we looked to our strategic plan, and so the goals that were established within the strategic plan are those 4 broad goals of innovating for student success, accelerating college readiness, building community, and investing in people and support structures. That is wrapped and tied into our institutional priorities. So as part of our annual planning process, every year when the departments prepare their department plans, those get rolled up into the division-wide plans, which then get rolled up into the vice president level plans. And based upon those 5 different vice president level plans, we take all of those to our college planning committee. Those are all reviewed. And then the college planning committee develops the institutional priorities. So the institutional priorities that were developed for the 17-18 budget year include creating guided pathways and roadmaps, maintaining fiscal viability, expanding our profile within the community to enhance enrollment, and then lastly, supporting equitable student success through innovation. So what we've done here on the next few slides is kind of shown some of the highlights of specific resource allocations and how those allocations either tie into one of the 4 board goals that the board established, so those are the first 4 columns, or one of the 4 institutional priorities. And I'm not going to go in detail through these slides, but it's just an indication for the board to see some of the major investments that we've made are done so because it's meeting one of the goals that we're working towards. For instance, that very first line there of hiring 29 full-time faculty, we met them tonight. I think they're all gone by now, but they may not be. But anyways, that does meet several of our goals, both the board goals and our institutional priorities, and that's why we invest in the full-time faculty is one of the reasons that we do that. So as you can see there, this slide, it has several of the grants that we go out for, and the reason we do the grants is to help us further our institutional mission as well as meet our priorities and goals. And it's just showing some of the larger grants that we have. Again, this one here is showing some more of the grants. And then down towards the bottom, I would say the last 5 things where we have early college credit, Viking Express, Cranium Cafe, Starfish Early Alert, and High Point. Those are some of the initiatives that are underway to help us with our enrollment management. It's also changes that we're making within our information technology systems to allow the students better access and in order for us to provide the students with more service. So those are some of the major things that are upcoming. You may recall a lot of these names from when Sylvia Lynch was here a couple of meetings ago, going over everything that IITS is working on. So that's what those are. Okay, so moving on to our FTES by term, you can see here what we're providing is the history dating back to the 2011-12 fiscal year. And then at the far left, on the far right, is our total budget of the 19,572. So you can see that when we completed fiscal year 16-17, we ended the year with 21,076 FTES. And what we did, it was, I would say, an intentional initiative where we borrowed an additional 300 FTES to get us out of stabilization. So I'm going to step back a couple years. If you look at the 14-15 fiscal year, the bottom line was we generated 20,775 FTES. In 15-16, we did not generate 20,775. Instead, we generated 19,077. So in 15-16, we were in what's called stabilization. In 16-17, we were required to come out of stabilization and fully restore to the 20,775 FTES level. Otherwise, we would have lost funding. So we did fully restore to the 20,775 by borrowing from summer of 17, but we also saw an opportunity for growth revenue that was available on a statewide basis. In order for us to capture additional growth revenue, we borrowed an additional 300 FTES, which brought in $1.6 million for us. And that's money that we will have on an ongoing basis. We did that with the full knowledge and understanding that it will throw us into stabilization in the 17-18 fiscal year. So that's why you see there that we are projecting that we will serve 19,572 full-time equivalent students. That drop in revenue between the 21,076 and the 19,572 is $7.7 million. And so with all the efforts that we're making towards enrollment management, it's going to be very critical and very important that we make sure that in the 18-19 year, we can get back up to the 21,076 FTES level so that we don't lose any of that $7.7 million. All right, so now moving into the expenditures and other outgo related to all the funds. This is a summary of all the funds. We have 13 different funds that we operate, and the funds are stipulated by the Chancellor's Office in Title V of how the different pots of money get put into the different funds. A couple things that you may notice different that wasn't here last year, the third line item, the Associated Students Body Fund. This is the first time that we have built that into the adopted budget. It's something that we felt it was important for the board to see the information for the Associated Student Bodies, and so we are now incorporating that into the adopted budget. On the restricted fund, the difference between the unaudited actual, the $34.5 million, and the adopted budget of $47 million is really related to 7 different grants that we have received in the 17-18 year and will be spending in the 17-18 year. So some of those grants are our Strong Workforce, our Student Equity Grant, our Adult Education Grant, as well as our Small Business Development Center, and then our Linked Learning grant related to advanced manufacturing, technology, and engineering. So those are some of the reasons for that change in the restricted general fund. The other big change I wanted to bring note to the board, and you're probably familiar with this, is on the general obligation bond funds. So we're showing both Measure E and Measure LB. And when we do the budget, we're budgeting the entire authorized dollar amount from those bonds, but the unaudited actual is just showing the expenditures that we spent during the fiscal year. So that's why you see such a drastic change between the unaudited actual and the adopted budgets. And then lastly, the other new fund that you haven't seen before is the next to the last line item, the Student Representation Fund. That is a $2 fee that the students voted on and assessed themselves. And so it is a new fund that came to the board a few months ago to approve that fund, and you will now see that going forward. So overall, with all of the district's funds and responsibilities, we spent $245 million in the 16-17 year, and then the adopted budget includes almost $1.2 billion. So now I'm going to go into more detail related to the unrestricted general fund, which is really our operating fund for the district. So here's the high-level overview. So our revenues and other financing sources, we received $126.9 million in the 16-17 fiscal year. We are budgeting to receive $130.2 for an increase in revenue of about $3.3 million. On the expenditure side, we spent $124.7 million last year. We're budgeting $138.9 million for an increase of $14.2 million. And then the surplus or deficit, we had a surplus of $2.2 million. And then we are budgeting a deficit of $8.7 million for within the 17-18 budget. I will say that $5 million of that 8.7 are the one-time funding that we have set aside from the business process reviews or for the business process reviews on that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention to the board is you may recall when we did the tentative budget back in June, we budgeted a $10.7 million deficit, and we have brought that down to $8.7 million, largely due to the borrowing the 300 FTES and capturing the $1.6 million. So that was the main factor of that. But I think it is a very important factor to take note of. So moving into the unrestricted general fund revenue, I'll just hit kind of some of the highlights here. Our revenues are broken down into the various sources of funds. So we have the federal money, the apportionment, that's the money that comes from our FTES. And as you can see there, we are projecting about $4 million in additional apportionment revenue. And as I mentioned, $3.1 million of that is coming from the base allocation increase. $1.8 million of that is related to the COLA, and then the other differential is really related to the deficit factor between the actual and the budget. The change in the other state revenue, going from $8.9 million in revenue for the current 16-17 year, an adopted budget of $8.3, that decrease of $633,000 is really a decrease in the one-time funding that we received in 16-17, offset by an increase in lottery and an increase in the STRS on behalf payments. So there's the overall revenue summary. Here it is pictorially, if you like graphics, on how much you can see. We are really dependent upon our FTES. Almost 91% of our revenue is generated from the FTES, and so we have very little other discretionary revenue to come in. And then the graph on the right is kind of the offset of what are the components that make up the apportionment revenue. So we get it in 4 different types of revenue: our enrollment fees, which we collect locally, the property taxes, which comes from our local property taxes. EPA is the education protection account. That is the tax revenue that comes in from Proposition 30, and then more recently Proposition 55, and then our state general fund apportionment. So moving on to the expenditure side, you can see overall, as I mentioned, we are planning to spend about $14.2 million more than what we spent in 16-17. For the academic salaries, going from $50.6 million to $53.7 million is primarily due to the new faculty that were hired, as well as an increase in the budget for the adjunct faculty from where we were last year. On the classified salary side, we spent $26.2 million in 16-17. The adopted budget is $27.3 million for an increase of about 1.2. And again, we had an increase on the classified salaries of $1.3 million, primarily because when we're budgeting for salaries and benefits, we're budgeting for all of the funded positions. So every position that is funded, we budget for. But as we know, we have vacancies that occur throughout the year. So we always generate savings on the salary side due to the vacancies and the turnover and staff and the time lag between when someone leaves and when we hire them back. So that's a lot of what the change is on the classified side. On the benefits side, as salaries go up, benefits go up as well, but some of the major factors of the benefit increases was we had almost $1 million increase in STRS, we had about $538,000 increase in PERS, a $576,000 increase related to our health and welfare benefits that we cover for our employees, and then about $782,000 on the STRS on behalf payments. For the services line item, you can see, there's another significant change there. We spent $9.7 million. We've budgeted $14.4 million for an increase of about $4.8 million. And again, that really is related to primarily for the one-time allocation that we made several years ago for the business process reviews. And that money will continue in carrying over until we spend it. And so it was originally budgeted in 16-17. We only spent about $1.2 million of that in 16-17. So the remaining $5 million is budgeted again in 17-18. So those are kind of the significant changes related to the expenditures. Here is the pie chart showing, based upon the total expenditures of $138.9 million, how much is spent for each classification of salary, or of expenditures, really. So salaries and benefits make up 86.4% of our total expenditures. Moving to this slide, one of the things that we like to do is a multi-year projection. So what this slide is showing is where we ended the year, the unaudited actual for 16-17. It shows the adopted budget for 17-18, and then we're projecting out 2 additional fiscal years. So we're projecting 18-19 and 19-20. What we do when we do these projections is we take the adopted budget as our starting point, and then we make changes that are known or estimated at this point in time. So on the apportionment revenue side, in our budget, we have budgeted $118.2 million. We're showing that that's going to increase to $121 million, and that is due to a school services estimate of 2.15% for COLA for the 18-19 fiscal year. We're not projecting any other revenue changes other than that COLA, and so that's where total other revenue is staying the same, which brings us to the total available funding of $132.9 million. On the expenditure side, again, we take the adopted budget's total expenditures, so the $138.9 million in 17-18 is our base rolling into 18-19. So you can see $138.9 million there as the expenditure base. On the adjustments to operations, you see a decrease of $5.1 million in the 18-19 year. And that is making the assumption that the $5 million that we've carried over for the business process reviews will be spent. We all know that we probably will not spend all of that in the 18-19 fiscal year, but this projection is assuming that it all gets spent. The adjustments to compensation, the increase of $4.1 million, that consists of hiring 8 new faculty for the fall of 18, as well as an estimate of a 2% step and column cost for the colleges, or for the district. And then it includes about a $3 million increase for our health and welfare, which is our STRS and our PERS and all of that. We have not estimated any salary increases except for what has already been negotiated, and that is CHIA is the only one that has settled negotiations for the 18-19 fiscal year. So if we spent everything that is in the budget for 17-18, if we spend all of the money that has been allocated for the BPRs, And then based upon our estimations for increases in salary and benefits, we would have a deficit of $5 million in 18-19, which you can see there brings a projected ending balance down to 16.7. One of the other changes that we made on these projections that we haven't done in the past is trying to acknowledge the fact that we have a savings in salaries every year. So we do have $1 million of salary savings built into that adjustments to compensation line item to try to get a closer projection of where we think we may end the year. And then moving into 1920, I won't go through the detail unless you have questions later, but again, you see there the revenue increase again is COLA of 2.35%, and really the only other changes are related to the step-in column as well as the health and welfare benefits that are projected for a deficit of about 6.1 million or a potential ending fund balance of $10.6 million. And I really discussed all of the future budget challenges as I was going through, so I won't go over the major details here, again, unless there's questions going forward. So I'll just open it up to questions.
Before I do, I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to leave so we have an action item.
So
Motion by
moved.
Trustee Otto, second by Trustee
Second.
Malauulu. Questions, members of the board? Chair recognizes Trustee Malauulu, followed by Trustee Zia. Trustee Malauulu?
Thank you, Vice President Gable. You always provide the board with such a thorough and well-explained report. I really appreciate it. I have a couple of questions, but I think the primary question that I have has to do with the the adopted budget versus the actual budget numbers for 2016, 2017. And so in 2016, 2017, you had projected a deficit of $10 million, roughly. It was about $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual budget showed a surplus of $2 million. So the $12 million discrepancy there with the negative $10 million and the surplus $2 million concerns me only because it seems like we are always fighting tooth and nail for money, and we're always, especially when it comes to contract negotiations, when it comes to some of the items that we discuss either in closed session or here publicly, a lot of the decisions that are made always are based on budget. We don't have enough budget. We've been in the press lately as having issues with our budget and being in the red, and people have asked me in the community what's happening with Long Beach City College, but then we get the actual budget and it shows that we have a $2 million surplus. So I understand that things happen, and I would rather you err on the side of caution and be prudent in your estimations. I get that. But to the tune of $12 million, when we have to fight for, just today, for example, we're not at liberty to discuss some of the items that we had to talk about in closed session, but I remember having a discussion about the budget then. If we're going to end up with a $12 million difference, why do we waste so much time arguing over pennies in comparison when it comes to salaries? Or, we had some really passionate speakers here from the faculty earlier talking about the lab hours and lab hour parity, and things like that are frustrating to me because then we end up with this surplus. So, my concern is not directed toward you personally, obviously, but my concern is just that it seems like we go through this every September where we end up with a surplus for the year prior, which is great. We'd all rather have a surplus, but we don't want to have a surplus if, at the cost of what? At the cost of constantly having to argue and constantly having to go back and forth to pay our faculty lab parity hours or to compensate people who really warrant that. They merit it with their work. So that's what frustrates me. Yes, I understand, enrollment is a factor, and I understand that faculty attrition is a factor, and I understand that there are a lot of other economic factors. I get that. But that might account for a $3 to $5 million surplus or deficit, but not 12. To me, I'm an English teacher. I'm not a math teacher, so I could see how my math might be a little bit off, but I don't think it would be off to the tune of $12 million. And that, if you can respond to that, that's great. But like I said, I understand that there are factors, but I just don't think that's right. I mean, we have to fight, and sometimes it feels like people are begging us for money. Sometimes it feels like I was begging for a flyer. I was begging to have something mailed out to my district, and I was told we didn't have the money, and I was $10,000. But then we have $12 million surplus. That's not right. That's my point. And sorry, I just feel very passionate about this because I was too new last September, too green to really understand what was going on. But after having sat here for a year and having people come to me all the time asking for things, and me having to say, no, we don't have the money, and then seeing our name in the press, but then seeing the final number, it's frustrating because we have the money. Sorry.
If you would like to respond, but then followed by Trustee Zia, and there'll be Trustee Baxter has some comments to questions.
Yes, I can respond and I can kind of give some of the big differences of how they occurred. A budget is a projection at a point in time, and Trustee Malauulu, I think you acknowledge that it does change throughout the year. So if we look at what we budgeted in revenue for the 16-17 fiscal year and what came in revenue, there was about a $2.9 million difference. So that was just over a 2% difference from the budget and what we received. As I mentioned before, $2 million of that really was related to apportionment. The $1.6 million was the result of capturing additional FTES. That was a decision that was made in, I'm going to say July 12th. The report was due on July 15th, so that was a very late decision. And then the other aspect of that was related to the deficit factor that the state charges us. We budget a 0.5% deficit factor, and when all was said and done for the 16-17 fiscal year, there was no deficit factor that was charged to us. So that's $3 million of that shift. Looking at the expenditure side, that is where the largest variance is. As I mentioned, $5 million of the unspent amount that was budgeted is related to the business process review calculation. So if you pull that one-time money out, then the difference is really about a $5.6 million variance in what was budgeted for expenditures and what was spent. 3.3 million of that were salary and benefits. And so, when I say a majority of our savings are coming from salary and benefits, it really is coming from the salary and benefits and the vacancies that occur throughout the year. When I'm preparing the budget, I feel that it's my responsibility that I budget as if our employees are going to be employed 100% of the year. I would have a hard time going through and saying, okay, well, I don't think this person's going to be here, so I'm just going to reduce that salary a little bit, or this person. And so it really is, we know there's going to be savings, and I think that was why when we did the multi-year projection this year for the first year, we're building in that attrition savings for our projections moving forward. But I really feel it's my responsibility to budget the full amount for all of our positions that have been approved.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Trustee Zia, followed by Trustee Baxter.
Thank you, President Kellogg. I believe I don't know if everybody can access it. I don't know if there's enough copies. I was told there's not enough copies of the printouts of the questions and answers. Some folks in the public haven't received it. So I sent in my questions in advance, and some of it have already been asked. And I appreciate the explanation because that provides clarity. So let me just make sure I understand. We have about $3.8 million. $3 million due to the deficit factor, and then $5 million unspent for business review process. Is that correct? Did I understand you correctly?
No, what I had said was we had a $3 million increase in total revenue from what was budgeted. 1.6 million of that was related to the additional growth in FTES, and then there was another 0.6 million that was related to the deficit factor, and $500,000 was related to the STRS on behalf. So that's what makes up the additional revenue that was received in 16-17 over and above what was budgeted.
And don't get me wrong, I like revenue. I like getting the additional revenue, and I think it's good to be frugal, err on the side of caution. I think it certainly makes us look good. I just want to understand what kind of contingency factors we typically apply when we're projecting. Is there some sort of a number that we apply when we're doing our projections?
On the revenue side?
Just in the funding balance. Funding balance.
No, I mean, we don't have a target. Like I said, when we're preparing the budget, it really is a rollover budget. So the budget that you received in the previous fiscal year is the starting point for the budget in the next fiscal year. We haven't been doing what we call budget augmentations to line items such as supplies or those because we haven't felt that we've had the available funds to do so. We have made investments in full-time faculty. We've made investments in classified staff as well as management, so those changes have been made. But the other line items, even though it's showing an increase from what was spent in 16-17 compared to what is budgeted in 17-18, it's because everything that was budgeted wasn't spent.
Right, but that seems to be the trend. I just want to have an understanding of how much confidence we can put in this projected adopted budget number of a deficit of 8.8 million that you're projecting. Because last year we said it was about 10.5 million deficit. We ended up with a $2 million surplus. I just want to know, forecasting, what to account for. What is the spread going to be? How much confidence can we put on this number that we're going to come either close to it? Now, I'm not suggesting. I just certainly want to have a surplus, but I just want to have an understanding of, was there a certain contingency? Is there a certain red line that you account for when you're doing these projections?
So I would say that the biggest wild card in the budget is the $5 million that we've allocated for the business process reviews. We will not spend $5 million on the business process reviews in the current fiscal year. How much of that we'll spend, we don't know. We have several projects going at this point in time related to guided pathways, related to still working on the enrollment services, helping out admissions and records. Some of those acronyms that you saw, Cranium Cafe and Starfish Early Alert and High Point, those are all related to business process reviews and change to our information and instructional technology services that we will be spending money on. But like I said, it won't be the entire $5 million. So we will not have a deficit of 8.7 million when we end the fiscal year. We will also more than likely have savings in our salaries. How much, I can't predict. We are trying to fill positions as fast as we can. We know that it takes time to fill those positions, but we are working fast and furious to try to get them filled. So
Okay, so with this $5 million, can you show me where that's reflected in the slides? I know you touched on it.
it's primarily in the services line item.
Where in the service? So is it embedded in there?
Yeah,
in the 14 million?
it's part of that $14.4 million is where the $5 million is budgeted.
Okay. All right. I just want to understand. I think it must be this slide where you have the comparison. No, I think it's page 12. My favorite slide, page 12. I think it's this one. No, actually it was in the budget book that you have, and in the response to questions. So in the adopted budget in 2016, we had 9 points, let me just take for example, for professional services, 9.8 million projected. And then our actuals ended up being roughly $5 million. Our adopted budget for 2017 projects $8 million in professional services. Why are we increasing it by $3 million? Why can't we just roll over what we actually spent from the previous year?
It's related to the business process reviews, and so...
Okay, so that's where the $5 million is?
Part of it is on that line item for professional services. Part of it is in the other services and expenditures. Those are the two primary locations of where that is.
Okay, because that doesn't add up to $5 million. That adds up to $3.8 million. So did you account for the full $5 million, or are you not accounting for the full $5 million? If it's captured in those two.
No, and I was trying to see. It is accounted for in there. Some of it has, I'm trying to see. So I think the other piece, which is hard to see by looking at this, is at times folks may budget, so the rollover budget may be in one of those line items, but when they spend the money throughout the year, they don't necessarily spend it in the line items that are originally budgeted. So the expenditures are moving based upon what the departments choose to make. And so we're not seeing the $5 million entirely in there because what more than likely happened was money was moved in to be spent in the professional services line item in 16-17 that wasn't in the original adopted budget.
Okay. So I'm trying to just take this with a grain of salt. You understand why there's like, if it's not apparent to us as the board, how is the member of the public and something to the reader? I mean, it's not even apparent to our staff where that $5 million is. We're speculating, and that gives me concern and pause that we just got to be more transparent and detail these numbers out. I don't want to be sitting here trying to figure out the increases and not really get a compelling answer, and nothing against you or your staff, Vice President Gable. I'm fully in favor of your team, but you know, to the reader, this is not just for the benefit of us as the board members who approve it. It's the public has the right to know. If I'm the member of public, I look at this, how am I supposed to know where that money is going?
So we have, which we can provide to you, a detailed listing of where the $5 million is spent. The majority of it is budgeted in the professional services and the other services line item, but there is also part of that money that is budgeted in the capital outlay line item. There is some of...
How is it a professional services when it's budgeted in the capital outlay?
No, The business process reviews and one-time allocations. Some of it has been allocated for capital outlay to purchase equipment that is necessary to expand what is needed in order to accommodate the business process review. So if you want a detailed line item of where the $5 million carryover is spent, we can provide that.
I just want to, just from a process enhancement standpoint, so we're not sitting here dissecting it and it's just self-explanatory and it's not opaque to the reader, or doesn't create misunderstandings, inadvertently misunderstandings, to someone who is just not familiar with how we do business. I'm still not convinced of like all the details because I can't see it. So perhaps as a process enhancement, we could look at making it even more crystal clear, detail it out, transparent, so that if I look at this, I can clearly tell without going on a hunting expedition. That's really what I'm calling for. And again, I have confidence in your team. I think this is going to be, hopefully we're going to finish in not run in deficit consistently, but we need to be transparent about this. I think I've beat that to death, but I'm confident that you guys can work on a process so the next time around we're sitting here, we're not going through this having to guess. That's all I want to make a point of. The other question I had was on the I know we're referring to it as structural deficit spending. Can you define for me what do we mean when we refer to it as a structural deficit spending? And I think one of the speakers brought that up. My understanding, is it like a chronic issue, or is it just if we have one-time deficit spending that we're in a structural deficit? Just for my own edification, I'd just like to understand that.
So when we say structural deficit, we're referring to the budget. And anytime your budgeted revenues are less than your budgeted expenditures, that's considered a deficit. When we said that there's a $3.8 million structural deficit, that's because we took out the $5 million of the one-time funding, and that $3.8 million difference is really related to the line item rollover budgets.
I got you. Thank you. That's all I had, President Kellogg.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Trustee Baxter.
Yeah, thank you, President Kellogg. First of all, I appreciate my colleagues asking questions because I think that's wonderful, and I appreciate your answers. But, you know, having been at the college for a long time, I understand that we intentionally underestimate the income and overestimate the expenses, and I think that's a wise thing to do because someday the rainy day may come. And so I want to salute President Romali and Vice President Gable and their staff for working very hard to ensure that we're on good footing. That's my answer.
Thank you. I just have I actually do have a question, but it's going to follow because I think some things we want to come out of this is, and even for us that have dealt with a lot of these budgets, it is challenging in many ways, how we get the funding and so on and so forth. My suggestion is really going to be somewhere in the future when we do it early enough to where this board can deal with, and this may be simplifying it more, but there's traditional questions that always come up with the board. For example, the size of the reserve. Then there's the hiring of full-time faculty, and then there's other items as well. But it's sometimes to break it down into a more simplistic prior to when this is established. The reason I'm saying that is, as I'm sitting here today, if I would have asked the question, because the last time we did I don't want to say make-believe budget, but it was a budget that wasn't really finalized. We finalized the budget tonight. I would have asked a question, well, can someone answer, and I do want someone to answer it just for the public, but why are we hiring full-time faculty members when our enrollment is going down and the fact that our revenue is decreasing and we don't know if we're going to have a need for those full-time faculty? That would be a question I would have. Now, how embarrassing it is that if you were here earlier, we introduced our faculty that are hired and working, yet here I am as a member of a board and they're saying, well, when are you going to hire them? Well, I already have, I guess. And they're already now part of it. So the question, and I'll throw it out to the superintendent president, to our vice president, is explain to me and the public why then we go forward and hire full-time faculty members when the fact is there's questions about declining enrollment, therefore declining need for the hiring of full-time faculty members. That's a good question.
Yeah, that's an absolute great question. I'm going to turn to Vice President Gable for the details, but ultimately we have what's called a FON, a faculty obligation number from the state, that requires us to have a specific ratio of full-time faculty. So we are under obligation to hire a particular number of full-time faculty. But let me turn to you, Anne Marie, if there's further intricate details.
The only thing I would add to that would be, if you recall, we had done the faculty early retirement incentive, and I'm forgetting, I think there was around 31 full-time faculty that took advantage of that incentive. Since we lost 31 full-time faculty, we are required, in order to meet our faculty obligation number, to hire the full-time faculty back. Or if we do not, we have to pay a penalty to the state around the number changes, it's around $77,000 per FTE that we are short from our faculty obligation number. We have not done the calculation for the fall of 17 yet. That report is due in late October. I'm hoping we will be right there, but then since we did have 5 failed searches, we may be lower than our FON when it comes to us preparing that report in the fall. At this point, I'm thinking we might be okay, but we'll have to see how that comes out.
So my follow-up question would be, and this is just a scenario that I was thinking out loud, is that the whole concept of the faculty obligation, which we're required, sometimes I look at it though, and no matter what we're going to be spending money, would have been wiser to take the fine, if you will, instead of hiring the full-time faculty members. And if you look at that, you know, it's one way or the other, we're spending money. But my point is that I've been one of the board members that have been here when we've laid off full-time faculty members. That is not a pleasant scenario, and it was very challenging. So also with the enrollment management going up per FTES, full-time equivalent students, FTEF, full-time equivalent faculty members, that number starts to change as far as the numbers. And I know every college tries to get up right to that level of meeting the requirement but not exceeding it. It is what it is. It's hard to explain it in common sense terms. But my question was going to be, if I had, well, what is the scenario of not hiring full-time faculty, taking advantage of hiring adjunct faculty, therefore we're not hiring people with all the benefits that go with it, the cost, and instead of taking the fine and moving forward and seeing where we're going to be in 1 year from now as far as our enrollment management plan, if we come out of stabilization, is that a better path to take? I think I would ask that anyway. But really, here we are today, and really those questions really don't matter because we've already hired the full-time faculty, even though some people are wondering, well, this is the adopted budget, yet we've already done things that really affect this budget before the board had an opportunity to really vote on it. So, and I'll take a page from Trustee Malauulu, by the way, but who has some heartburn on things. And people know, the incentive for people to leave the college has always been a thorn in my side. I don't like it. I don't think it's appropriate, but yet we did it. 30-odd faculty members with a lot of seniority took it. It was essentially a bonus, whether they did a good job or not. and they're gone, and now we have these issues that come up with this. So just when you brought that up, that was my fingers to the blackboard that I personally have always had a problem with, but nonetheless, they retired, we now have this issue. So my question is, and now just, it really is a moot point, but has anyone ever looked at just taking the fine, or is that economically even more costly to the college versus hiring full-time faculty and all the benefits that go with it? I mean, have we ever done that or looked at it, or has any college ever done that?
Would you like me to respond, President Romali?
Okay. And respond, and then I'll respond after you.
Okay, so we actually have taken the penalty in previous years. It was during the recession time. We lost, I would say at that point in time, I think we lost close to 40 faculty during the recession for various reasons. And the discussions that were had within the Budget Advisory Committee and the recommendations that were made at that point in time was not to hire full-time faculty at the same time that we were going through program discontinuance, because we didn't feel that that was appropriate. So
and
we
were laying off folks. So the point
Yes.
was, why are we going to hire when we're laying off
Right.
at the same time?
But we knew that we were going to be below our FON when this, and so during that time period, the state put a freeze on the FON obligation, the full-time faculty obligation. We knew when the state lifted that freeze, we were going to be below our full-time faculty, but it was a conscious decision on the district's part not to hire the full-time faculty during the time that we were laying off employees. And so we have consciously taken the penalty in previous years. We did, with the supplemental early retirement plan, one of the stipulations in that was an agreement that we would not replace the full-time faculty for one fiscal year. So we generated savings, basically one-time savings in the 16-17 fiscal year by not replacing all of the faculty that retired in June of 16, knowing that we needed to hire them for fall of 17. So we have gained a 1 year's worth of savings from not replacing the full-time faculty and backfilling them with adjunct in order to meet the FTES for the 16-17 fiscal year. As I mentioned, in the 18-19 fiscal year, based upon the number of full-time faculty that have retired in the current year, we do think that we need to hire an additional 8 faculty to come on board fall of 18, which when we get to the 18-19 budget, you'll see that number in there.
And Superintendent President, and on a positive, what I read out of this, is that the number you mentioned, 86.4% of the overall of our budget, that seems to be going in the right direction. We're right in the area where most community colleges find the productive place to be. So that was
it's at 86.4, assuming that we spend that $5 million. Again, back to the $5 million of the business process reviews. I wish we'd just spend it and get it out of the budget, and I won't have to talk about that anymore. But
okay. Well,
if you pull out that one-time money, we're really at 89.6% of salaries and benefits.
and that is a concern, because that gets to the point of, for me, when I look at the budget, the other item is with stabilization. Hopefully the efforts we've been doing on enrollment management will have a positive impact. And we can do, so there are some positives during budgets. They're never easy. They're always difficult and confusing more times than not. So I would just leave with, as I looked at one of the suggestions I've said when I started, was maybe again for the future to allow us as a board to give some direction on what we want. We have done that with the reserves. I know we've had a specific deliberation on previous boards on what that's going to be. And the same thing would be on the question about, for me personally, the hiring of what are the alternatives or what are the scenarios with hiring full-time faculty versus doing the fine, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that way and other questions that may have come up, those will allow the board to feel they're probably more involved in it, which is not an easy process at all. And we haven't even got into what takes place in Sacramento all the time as well, or Prop 30 or Prop 98, et cetera. So with that, those are my questions and statements, so thank you for the response. Superintendent President, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that what I would like to do is use some of the budget savings that we have used to create an entire enrollment management team that is going to participate in community relations, governmental relations, outreach, and recruitment, so that we can drive enrollment up and so that we do not have to deal with these types of questions and challenges in the future, so that hopefully we won't be sitting here a year from now with these same types of questions because they won't be our challenges by then. So it's exciting times.
Other questions, members of the board? Trustee Otto?
Yeah,
followed by Trustee Malulu.
I think the context or the history of this is very important, and that is that when the recession started, there were 2.6 million community college students in California. 10 years later, there are 2.1 million community college students in California, and it's not because people don't want to go to community colleges, it's because the state's unwilling to pay for it. And the net result of that is that we are getting less money to do what it is that we've always done, and that's the trend line, if you will, of education funding everywhere. In Arizona, they give no money except for property tax for higher education at all, zero. And there are other states that are very, very low as well. So we have a system that is based on what we refer to affectionately as butts in seats, which means that several weeks into any given term, we count how many people we've got and they give us money. That we have decreasing numbers of students. It wasn't that long ago that the Long Beach Unified School District had more than 90,000 students. They have about 75,000 now, and they're not coming here because they're not there. And so I applaud Superintendent President Romali to say, yeah, we got to get more people in, but we're competing against all the other community colleges who are trying to do the exact same thing, and we're a little late to the game this time. I'm a little nervous that the monies that we were going to devote to that are still sitting on a shelf, but you know that's the big picture. It's one vision of the big picture. I remember when I started on this board, I was very worried at the first budget meeting I went to, just like you, Vivian, about we would get a balanced budget. Oh, yeah, I'll do this, and I read everything very, very carefully. And after the meeting, the superintendent president at the time, Jan Kehoe, said, we don't get a third of the money that is allocated until next year anyway. So, don't take it so seriously. And by the way, they give us a budget in January, and then they change it all around in May. That's called the May revise, and sometimes it's very significant. We did better this year in the May revise, but that's all the way we do it. So, I mean, among other things that we can and should do, and other community colleges are starting to do this, is to look at about ways that we can increase our revenue from other places. I'm not talking every Friday we have a bake sale. I don't think that's going to do it. But increase our grantsmanship. There are places that there are other community college systems that are much better than California and much better than Long Beach at getting alternative sources of revenue to do what it is that we do here. The one specific thing that I would like either you, Anne Marie, or somebody else to explain, because we keep talking about the business process reviews, and I've got heartburn every time I hear it, because I remember the decision that we made and why we made it, and it's a lot of money. And by the way, I think that it's a great idea, but it's a lot of money. Tell the audience what the business process reviews are. What are the elements of it? How far along are we in it? What else will we do? And by the way, if we do it all, how it relates to our goals and our institutional priorities.
So the intent of the business process review is to look at our PeopleSoft system, which is our integrated software system that we use for our students, for our financials, for our human resources. All of the processing related to the college is ran through the PeopleSoft system. That system was implemented in the year 2000, and although we have kept up to date with the annual updates that come through, we have never really gone back and looked at our processes around those systems. So when we implemented PeopleSoft, we kind of made it work for the way we processed paperwork, students, everything back in 2000. There are much greater capabilities and functionalities available within PeopleSoft that we have not implemented over the years because we haven't had the time. So the idea behind doing the business process reviews was to take a hard look at the functionalities within the PeopleSoft system and the needs of the requirements and guidelines of how we process, I'm going to say paperwork, and see what we can change and do differently in order to save staff time, in order to make the students' experience better through registration, through payment, everything where the students are touching our system, trying to look at it and see if we can make it more seamless for the students. When we received it was over $11 million in one-time funding several years ago, the decision was made to put a bulk of that funding towards these business process reviews. And we did it with the intent that we would get more capacity and we would get more time with the PeopleSoft system, knowing that in probably 5 or 6 years, PeopleSoft isn't going to meet our needs any longer and we're going to have to change over our system completely, which is a $20 to $30 million endeavor. So this was a way for us to look at our systems now, try to make the changes to improve the students' experience, and get us 5, 6, maybe 10 years more out of PeopleSoft before we have to do a complete changeover again. We started with the financial aid area. We've made some significant changes in there. One of the other things that we did is we went to CCC Apply, which is an online application that 112 of the 114 colleges used. We were one of 2 or 3 colleges that weren't on CCC Apply. We converted to that. We looked at some of our purchasing areas, and so we've made some changes in purchasing to try to streamline and make things run more smoothly. We are planning on looking at the admissions and records area. We are also planning, and we currently have an RFP out on the street for an integrated payment solution, which will provide more capabilities for the students to where they can actually pay using their mobile devices. Right now, you can't pay using your mobile device. It will also improve our functionality and processes around the drop for non-payment. So those are a couple of the big ones I think that are coming up. We also, with the Guided Pathways project, we know that we're going to need to integrate our PeopleSoft system with the roadmaps and the student schedules and those types of things, which we're planning on using this $5 million towards that endeavor as well. The The whole idea is for a student to know what their course of study is, to be able to plan it out, and then from that plan, to be able to register into those courses and see what's available. And so we want to get there, and I think with the business process reviews and with this funding, eventually we'll be able to get there. But it's not a quick process. It's not something that you can do in 1 year. You know, it's a 2-3 year endeavor for the various aspects of it.
And the outcomes that we're looking for are, so in financial aid, that people get their checks on time, so that they get them, and there's not a 3-week delay, and that means people will be more inclined to enroll and maybe be more likely to complete, and it's the same thing with all the rest of it. We used to say student success, we believe in student success, that's people that graduate, people that transfer. No, it's if you answer your phones, and we've got good now, for the first time, we're paying attention in a very serious way to that. That's part of the business practice, because if you want to go to Long Beach City College and you call up and 30% of the phone calls are not answered, it's unlikely that you're going to get here. So we're improving that. That's a business practice. I don't know if that was part of the business practice reviews, but each of those things, scheduling of classes, knowing where people's ed plans are, and all those are designed to make our students more successful. And that's what we're trying to spend this money on. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee Malulu, you had some final comments?
Okay, so Vice President Gable, you are the co-chair of the Budget Committee?
Yes, I am.
Who is your co-chair?
Chris Carter, a
Okay.
faculty member.
Okay, so Superintendent President Romali made a great suggestion for us to invest some of our budget surplus into enrollment management so that we won't be facing these issues or similar issues next year, and to really drive up enrollment, which I thought was excellent, and it inspired me to think of things that we could do with that surplus so that it's not surplus anymore, and investing in our college. And while I'm not on the budget committee, just off the top of my head, and forgive me because I am really partial to adjuncts. I was an adjunct myself. The first thing that comes to mind is something that you and I have talked about, Vice President Gable, is how much would it cost to pay our adjuncts for office hours? So if we've got a $12 million surplus, maybe we can pay them 1 office hour, or 2, or whatever. Also, how about a stipend to attend College Day? I was one of those adjuncts who attended College Day when I was here. This year, I understand there were somewhere between 50 and maybe at the most 75 adjuncts here on their own time. They're not compensated for that. And if we could, devise a way to have them sign in or sign out, or just give, a $50 stipend or something for their time, it would be an incentive. Additionally, going into shared governance, we can use the surplus to actually pay for task forces. We can pay for participatory governance. We can pay to have some of our adjuncts be involved in the campus management. We talk about shared governance, where here's an opportunity to put our money where our mouth is. I would also like to mention, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit in my report, but in our strategic plan, 2 words that appear pretty frequently. Faculty appears in our strategic plan 25 times, and community appears in our strategic plan 19 times. So if we were to use some of our surplus to investing in our faculty and investing in community outreach programs, maybe our enrollment would drive itself up without having to use our money to invest, and maybe we would have the fruits of our investment reflected in our students, which, by the way, should be the most used word in our strategic plan. So with that, I don't want to belabor the point. We can talk about this for a long time to come, but just if you can take those remarks back to your meeting with the budget committee, and then maybe we can figure out a way. I only brought up the issue of adjuncts, but I'm sure there are other people on campus who would like to claim a piece of that pie for themselves. But those are just some examples of things we can do, and it would be well spent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
I'm sorry, other members?
can I just make a clarification? I'm sorry. So the Budget Committee is not responsible for determining line item budgets or how much we spend on things. What you referenced for the adjunct faculty, that's something that's completely the purview of negotiations. It would not be discussed at all in the Budget Committee. So just for your understanding and clarification. And then the other thing, it was a $2 million surplus, not a $12 million surplus, so.
All right, well, I realize that the budget item, we started at 6:30 on this item, and we're now closing in on 8 o'clock. That said, though, we realize this is one of the most important things we do as a board. Also, I think the question is, as we try to, and you can always do a better job at how we can make this whole deliberation more comfortable for the elected body, that they feel they're involved at the front end. And so that's things to always, and we actually did talk about this at a retreat as well. So there's no other comments at this time. I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Trustee Zia, and then we'll get to the vote.
Thank you, President Kellogg. Just one final note. I noticed on slide 10 that we do have an increase in our FTE ES for summer of 397. So I wanted to just applaud staff. That shows leadership. And I also wanted to emphasize, I know other members of the board brought this up, I can't stress enough about cutting spending. I don't think a $5 million contract was our solution to resolving FTES. It's leadership, and this is a testament to our superintendent president, Romali's leadership. In 3.5 months, she's been able to make this level of transformation. So I just definitely want to applaud you, Superintendent President Dr. Romali, and your Vice President, Ms. Gable, and the rest of your team, because this says a lot. I don't think we saw this much peak with the limited resources and the circumstances that were dealt with, and this quick of a turnaround. So thank you. And as far as the full-time obligation number, I would not be an advocate in assessing that or even entertaining it, because just rough numbers, it was $77,000 per head, and if we had 30 to fill, that's about $2.3 million. So I just want to put that out there, that I'm not an advocate for that, to even entertain it. With that, I have no further questions, President Kellogg. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there has been a long discussion. There is a motion and a second on the floor to approve the budget. So if there's no other comments at this time, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Subject number 8.2. This is the to approve the annual financial and budget report. This is what we do as far as sending to the Chancellor's office. So this is typical of what they call the CCFS, which I believe stands for Community College Financial Statements. But so could I entertain a motion to approve the annual financial budget statement? The motion by Trustee Malauulu, second by Trustee Zia. Questions, comments on this item? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll. Student trustee, by the way, these are financial issues, financial personnel. You cannot.
I understand.
You cannot vote. So I just want to make. I was not ignoring you, Madam Secretary. Roll, please.
Excuse me.
He can't vote.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can even get back in. It's totally locked me out.
We're having internet issues.
I think we waited so long.
Having some technical difficulties?
That could be.
That was a very diplomatic way of saying we're taking time.
Is part of our business process we have board docs? Get board docs that don't shut out?
No. Actually, my agenda's still up, but I have a login page on top of it, so this is very strange.
While you're working on that, and we're getting the question came up, but I don't want to confuse her. Can the student trustee vote on this issue of the budget?
Yes.
Yes.
It's just personnel items.
It's my understanding that the student trustee can't vote on personnel matters, but financial matters, they can.
But on financial issues, including bond money or salaries are embedded into any budget. That's why we won't do it, just to make sure, to let me know in the future. That's why. We won't. Yeah.
ahead. They're
All right,
still
Madam
trying to
Secretary.
figure it out.
Whenever you are.
President Kellogg,
Okay.
trustee has a comment.
So the student member may cast an advisory vote on all matters before the board, if desired, except on motions related to personnel and labor relations, but may not make or second any motion. Student member of the Board of Trustees shall not attend closed sessions of the board nor receive closed session materials, and that's pretty much it. So, except on motions related to personnel and labor relations.
So he can't vote?
Good for you.
Good job.
I should have read this in the beginning, brother.
Now, the question, just because in here are salaries, that is really the question. I mean, it's not an issue.
Those are approved separately, I think, and we can consider
he can
that,
vote?
so-
All right, very
But
good.
I need your motion again because I was
The
totally
motion
wrong.
was originally made by trustee, since I wrote it down, Malululu. I'm sorry, hold
Yeah.
on.
You're right.
Malululu, second by trustee Zia.
Thank you.
Malululu Zia.
Okay.
Student trustee, your advisory vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, if you're ready, you can call the roll of the rest of the board.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Trustee Kellogg, I thought we were voting on 8.2.
One moment, that was my question. We were on item 8.2. That was
Excuse
on
me.
the, which is
Yes,
fine.
you are. You are.
We are?
It's right.
You are.
That's fine.
We'll go
And you
back.
can vote on that one,
Hold
too.
on. Here.
Student trustees,
That
for the
was
record.
Malauulu and Zia.
Correct.
And we'll take the vote on that. Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
What, I'm still on the wrong, am I on the right item?
No, you're right.
You're
You're
right.
at 8.2.
Point two. This
Virginia
is,
Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
And did we have the student trustee on this one, please? Your advisory vote?
Aye.
Thank you. We're next to item 8.3. This is the resolution authorizing a request for waiver of educational code regarding the use of proceeds from the district's sale of the Los Coyotes Diagonal property. This is an action item, so at this time, for discussion purposes, could I entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second, motion by trustee Zia, second by trustee Baxter. Superintendent President, would you like to, or assign someone to explain
Yes,
what
this
this
is a
is?
very exciting opportunity that we have to potentially use the sale money from the Los Coyotes property in a way that is a bit different than in the past, and I'm going to have Anne Marie Gable, Vice President, give you the details of that.
All right, Vice President Gable, you're on again.
Thank you, Board President Kellogg. So what we are requesting of the board is to allow us and to approve a waiver or a request for a waiver of education code. Anytime that you have surplus property that you are going to sell, within the education code, it requires that the proceeds of the sale of that property be spent for capital outlay purposes. Since we have passed our general obligation bond and we have funding sufficient for our capital outlay needs, both with our local general obligation bonds and with the state funding match that we're getting on some of our projects, I reached out to legal counsel, both our bond counsel as well as our general counsel, to see if there was any way that we could apply for a waiver in order to use the proceeds and put them in our retiree benefit fund, our irrevocable trust, towards our long-term liability related to our retiree benefits. It is permissible to request the waiver. The Board of Governors at the state of California would have to grant the waiver in order for us to do this, but it was a way of looking at our operating costs into the future and would afford us the opportunity to save some money on our required obligation for those retiree benefits on an ongoing basis. So it's estimated by the actuary that we use that for every $45,000 that we can put into our irrevocable trust, for every $1 million that we put into our irrevocable trust, it would reduce our required contribution by about $45,000. So we are recommending that the board approve this resolution to request a waiver from the Board of Governors so that we can put, a significant amount of the sale proceeds into the irrevocable trust, which will reduce the burden on our unrestricted general fund on an ongoing basis by doing so.
Members of the board, questions at this time? My question would be twofold. One, we're assuming this property is going to sell. Is there a reason we're doing it this early before the property has even begun an escrow process?
Yeah.
And that's simply it. It just takes so long? Because then my follow-up question is going to be, it takes so long, they've never done this before. So correct me, when the question about when this property was acquired a long time ago, was there bond money utilized for the purchase of these properties?
No, the property was purchased with certificates of participation, which was local debt that the district entered into.
So the question of there is no way that this can be, the argument can be made that this property was purchased by bond money and then it's returned. Originally, when I asked this question, and actually one of the few questions I do remember from back then, is what was going to happen with the proceeds from the sale when and if it does take place. I was told at that time that it was going to be put back to repay bond. Now, maybe that was just a misunderstanding, but where would this money, if we did not pursue this, where would this money return to?
It would return to the capital outlay fund and would be required to be spent within 3 years in accordance with IRS guidelines on capital outlay projects. And so we would be supplementing our bond funds and spending this money first before we would spend our bond money on the projects that we currently have underway related to our facilities master plan.
So when we acquired the property, and I want to say at that time it was $9 million plus some change, that obviously is real dollars. We had to purchase it in escrow. So that money was somewhere in our budget that we were able to utilize.
Oh.
Escrow, they had funny money?
So we entered into local debt, which is called a certificate of participation. So it's kind of like a long-term lease. So we issued local debt to purchase the property. The repayment of the certificates of participation, for several years it was made out of the unrestricted general fund. Once we passed the 2008 measure, we had language in the 2008 measure that allowed us to pay off debt of the district. And so we did repay, or we paid off the certificates of participation with the 2008 proceeds, but it is not restricted to be used for bond funds because we converted this property into taxable property. It was no longer tax exempt. So that was part of when we did the workup with the IRS a few years ago related to this property and entered into the voluntary agreement with the IRS. Pieces of this property, 2 of the parcels, were then converted into non-tax exempt, for lack of a better word, and is now allowable to be used towards long-term debt of the district if the board approves this resolution and if the Board of Governors approves this resolution. If the Board of Governors does not, then it reverts back to the education code requirements of, and it has to be spent on capital outlay purposes.
And finally, then I'll open up my colleagues if anyone has. This property was that when we were given a legal opinion back in the day, that legal opinion proved to be wrong. And therefore, we had to make a payment to the IRS for this property. The reason I say that is when I hear there's a legal opinion that we can go and we can ask for the Board of Governors to do this, that's pretty simple. You can ask for anything, really. But my concern is this property, and obviously you probably can understand and hear what I'm. I view that when we are buying the property or when we're looking at it, that we can use these terminologies about trans and this and that. We use money to acquire property. Then it should revert back to what we originally were doing in my mind. All the legalities and all the opinions aside, a very simplistic approach. We're now taking money that we acquired property, we make a profit from it, and then we put it into retiree benefits. That's what essentially it's going to land. I know you are hopefully on very sound financial and legal footing on this. I just think it sometimes is what people have a tendency to think that we're double talking. It's a little bit of bait and switch, whether it's true or not. And my credit to people trying to find very creative ways to get around our budget, which we always have dilemmas, as Trustee Otto mentioned. But it just sits on the very simplest way of we bought the property to use facilities there. We now are going to sell the property because we don't have a need for it. The profits from that, to me, to be now shifted into retirement, it doesn't sit well with me. All the legal opinions, everything you're talking about. So that's why I wanted to raise it. And then again, time is great, but the fact is if the property doesn't sell, and hopefully it will, that this is all sort of a mute discussion. But and the fact that the Board of Governors, I don't know if they haven't dealt with it because they've never had this scenario, or no one's ever come up with this type of creative approach to it. So, but nonetheless, we would be the first on this one. And back to my basic point of, it's as we found during budget deliberation, higher education talks in a language sometimes that the general public has a difficult time absorbing. And to me, this is just one I look at and go, buy property, sell property, retire me benefits. So anyway, my point only. Other members of the board at this time, though, on the item? Chair recognizes Trustee Otto.
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to sell, I don't know all the legalities of this, but a building to pay down our retiree obligations, I don't see why we couldn't do that. And this is the same thing. The fact that, I mean, with legal opinions from our counsel and from our bond counsel, it's my understanding, and I've had some contact with people in Sacramento about the Board of Governors. This is, I don't know if it's unique, but they look on this. They believe that we can do this legally, and I think it's a great opportunity to do something. If I had similar questions to yours because at some point bond proceeds were used to pay things off, but based on the legal opinions that we've got, I don't see anything wrong with doing this if it's okay to do it. And it's I feel comfortable that it's okay to do this based on all the research that's been done. I called Anne Marie this afternoon and said, what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and what about this? And she answered all those questions with people that she'd worked with in Sacramento and our local council and bond council, and so I feel comfortable about the doing of this. And I think we should ask for the waiver from the Board of Governors, and it's a great use of these monies, and in a way that I think is not offensive. If we tried to put it into operations expenses, I think that would be different.
Other members of the board?
Yes, Trustee Kellogg?
Yes, Trustee Baxter?
Yes, I happen to agree with Trustee Otto, and I think this is a great use of the money because we have this responsibility of the retiree obligations, and this is a way for us to fulfill that without using funds from the undesignated fund.
Other members at this time? Superintendent, were you? Oh, okay. As I said, I was just one of those, you can, and I've been doing things like this similar, where I remember being told when I was on the city council about all the things were right. It just doesn't strike me. But the majority of the board wants to move forward with it, and that's fine. I have no qualms about that. I just wanted to raise the issues, and only time will tell. Other members at this time? Hearing none. Does the student trustee get to vote on this one? Student trustee, your advisory vote, please.
Aye.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Well, since they're already marked on here, because I did it before, I'll still just call it out. Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
No.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto. Zia.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We're now to reports. Academic Senate President. You still with us?
Thank you, President Kellogg. I'll make mine brief. I just want to acknowledge the faculty for all of their work for the first 2 weeks of the semester. A big thanks to the department heads who did a lot of the scheduling during the summer, and a very, very special acknowledgments to the department head from math, Moises Gutierrez, with the help of the faculty and support from the dean. They did very innovative decisions that turned out very well, and they have increased their enrollments and serve a larger number of students. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent President. By the way, before you start, on behalf of myself and the board, thank you for your comments in the past week. There's been, actually for the past month since our last meeting, but in particular last week, you put out comments after the administration regarding the Dreamers, or DACA, and you put out very proactively what we are doing, because as I asked you how many we have here at Long Beach City College, 1,650. Yes. Which is an extremely large amount. And so on behalf of the board, I'd say thank you very much for those comments and trying to put people at ease, what we're trying to do here at the college. So my personal thanks to you on that statement that you put out.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I want to second what Academic Senate President Jorge Ochoa has said. Professor and Department Head Moises Gutierrez and his entire math team has used math computations to help solve the enrollment management problem that we have here, and I think that's just pretty spectacular, and I also want to second that shout out. LBCC faculty and staff really do care about our community college neighbors, and they have shown it with and voted with their feet by supporting through cash and clothing donations to Houston Community College, as well as San Jacinto Community College, our neighbors in Houston. And by doing drives, they are really to be commended. I also want to really acknowledge Officer Stinson. If you would please pass on our congratulations and appreciation to LBPD Officer Nick Harris, who noticed 2 homeless students on campus that were victims of the Houston flood. And he, along with foster care counselor Candace Meehan, got them hooked up with housing, short-term money, financial aid, scholarships. They're working on job opportunities, and got Delta Airlines to help pitch in to fund some of those overnight stays. So they're looking at a really holistic approach to help our homeless population, which was displaced and come to us through the Houston effect. So he is really to be commended, along with Candace Meehan. I really want to thank them. With regard to the DACA issue, we have reported over 1,600 DACA students. That does not include unreported. So staff have pulled together, particularly our counseling, mental health, crisis counseling. We've put together crisis counseling, mental health services, and workshops that have been available on both campuses that our students have been able to take advantage of, both in organized sessions as well as drop-in sessions. So I really, really want to thank them for that. I want to tell you that on tomorrow, we're having a high school counselors workshop for Long Beach Unified. Guess what? Over 200 counselors are going to attend, and you bet we're going to tell them about how great LBCC is. And this ought to be their college of choice that they recommend to their students. We've got, don't forget, on October 4th, we've got a PCC ribbon cutting for building QQRR, and please calendar October 11th for a career fair that's going to be held at PCC for 400 Long Beach Unified High School students, and we have 25 local employers. Now I want to give some shout outs. I've already given a memo to the board, but we're going to get it out to the campus community likely tomorrow. There have been tremendous enrollment management efforts that have taken place this summer. When I came in 3.5 months ago, I realized that we very quickly needed to get some traction around our budget and around enrollment management so that we don't need to be sitting here making these kinds of challenging decisions and questions a year from now, 2 years from now, and on a consistent basis into our future, because we are such a destination that why would we have an enrollment management problem? Over 60 people, faculty, staff, students, administrators, came together, volunteered to help do these things over the past month. In particular, I just want to highlight some of them. We've come up with a matriculation conversion plan. What does that mean? It means that whatever step you are in the process, you are an applicant to orientation, to financial aid, to enrollee, we're going to grab you at every step of the way. We're going to provide you with Ritz-Carlton concierge service, and we're going to move you to the next step, and we're going to nudge you along the way and help you. So Student Services really gets a lot of credit for that. We've had registration changes. We've kept, the faculty have been very kind to us and allowed us to keep registration open longer. That means longer hours and longer deadline and steeper deadlines. We've also made changes that around our drop for non-payment policy, which we normally ran 2 weeks before the semester began, and we extended that. So that allows students to get their finances in order and be able to take classes. We also worked very closely with the deans to have more of a scalpel, artistic approach to class cancellations rather than just an across-the-board rule. With completion in mind, sequencing in line, getting programs off the ground in line. So I'm very, very pleased there. I want to thank the calendar committee again, came up with this concept of the 2 5-week sessions. That is a brand new concept that aids our completion agenda and revenue generation. We also did a tremendous amount of social media outreach as well as phone banking. We put together a makeshift phone bank, and people from all walks of the organization got in there and called students, and students loved it. That personal touch really made the difference. Our counseling department and student success department put together a Viking Express, one-day type of a get your assessment, get your orientation credit, and meet with a counselor to do an abbreviated educational plan. These were such a success that we had to give it CPR, Counseling Plus Registration, where we brought in 100 students on that Saturday before school started. One thing you will find to me is I play to the end. We don't give up until the last absolute minute. So the team really had fun with that. There's a high school counselors workshop coming up. So if we were able to push 300 increase in enrollment and an increase in classroom efficiency and an increase in efficiency in the waiting class count, imagine what we can do once we put all of this together and get all of the input involved into an extremely comprehensive enrollment management plan and have the IEPI team of experts come and give us their best advice. That really, the sky's the limit. LBCC has a team that has pulled together, and I wanted to give them acknowledgments. So what you're going to see tomorrow, LBCC team, and what the board has seen is names. These people dropped everything to come help, and I want to acknowledge them and give them public thanks. So I hope that this excites you. This is what we've done just in 3.5 months. I can't even imagine what we're going to be sitting here talking about a year from now. It's going to be, I anticipate just a huge victory, and I consider this a huge victory. So thank you so much for allowing my report.
Thank you. Student trustee.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone after, let me see, 3 hours and 20 minutes. It feels like this is my first board meeting one again, because the first one we extended all the way to 9:30, I think, or 9-ish. So that was pretty, yeah, it was fun. I can't say so much for this one because I have a lot of homework. As I mentioned last meeting, I'm taking 19 units, and like moments like this, it really hurts me because I have to go home and just study and not sleep. But I'm looking forward to it. That's all part about being a college student. Things that I'm going to touch upon, I know the ASB president mentioned a little bit about attending Seesaw, so we're going to be doing that. The people who are going to be attending is just from executive board, so it's going to be the LAC vice president, PCC vice president, the ASB president, and yours truly, the student trustee. To my knowledge, I know a couple student trustees from surrounding colleges are going to be attending. Antelope Valley College is going to be attending, along with some Bay Area colleges as well, because it's going to be in San Jose from October 13th through the 15th. So I'm looking forward to that. And the conference is called the Student Leadership Conference. Moving right along to SSCCC. So we had our Region 8 meeting this past month on August 25th. And we discussed campaigns that we're working on through the Chancellor's Office. So we had my predecessor, Alejandro Lomelí, present to us the career education campaign. And what he was really what it was really about was reaching out to students who were seeking to get even more involved within the Student Advisory Committee, along with they're offering the Student Outreach Fellowship, which is also a paid fellowship program. So for any college students that might be interested in that. We also decided our next board meeting and our next region meeting. So our next Region 8 meeting will be at Mount San Antonio College, or Mount SAC, which will be this Friday at 2 p.m. And I know some of us will be attending. Moving along to legislation that SSCCC is following. So currently we're following the AB 705, which is a matriculation assessment. So to use data from the transcripts for students to enroll. So that's currently on the third reading in the Senate. So we're waiting for that. We're also following AB 1468, which is the Student Equity Plan. And that one's currently held under submission on the Appropriations Committee, which is chaired by Senator Ricardo Lara, who also represents us in the Senate. So that's another perk that, he's representing Long Beach. So he should definitely pay more attention to not just Long Beach as a whole, but Long Beach City College as well. And finally, SB 68, which is also held, which he is also leading, which is the post-secondary education exemption from non-resident tuition. And it's also on the third reading as well, but in the Assembly. Also, I'm going to touch upon a little bit about the homeless task force meeting that happened yesterday. So we did have a couple representatives there, and they all left already except for Wendy Mora, who's still here. But they touched upon.
There last night. Were you there last night? That I kicked you out? Oh, okay.
The homeless housing, the homeless meeting, the homeless committee meeting.
No, she wasn't.
Yeah. So the people who attended, to my knowledge, was the senior citizens, senior rep, which was Bertha, Jocelyn Reg, which is our student support services, along with John Paolo, who is our ASB secretary, and I believe he was allowed within the meeting. From now on, we're going to maintain that constant communication within the homeless committee district, along with ASB as well, because we definitely want to have a voice on what's going on within the community. Also, I really want to thank President Romali for doing the slot meetings. I know we have a couple of ASB representatives. I know when ASB President Javier Salcedo wasn't able to attend and I wasn't able to attend, we were able to send Heidi Escalanja, right? That's how you say her last name? Heidi Escalanja, who's really just a great advocate, who is currently the LAC Club Senate president. And I know she's doing a great job on that, along with, we sent Paolo, again, to represent us. So it's awesome the fact that they're willing to to voice our opinions when me and Javier are busy with classes and doing other things like that. Other than that, I'm gonna end on a note of the DACA decision. So I really want to thank what President Romali did of releasing that statement. Not just releasing a statement, but actually doing a video. That's something going above and beyond that I know other community colleges didn't do. So I really, want to thank the time that she did that, and I appreciate it. And it was like 11:30 at night, and I was watching the news, and I was specifically the Spanish Univision news, and I noticed how they moved everything from the weather, they moved everything what was going on to just focus on the issue of the DACA students. And I just, the executive board for ASB is in a group chat. And I just had a moment where I said, you know what, like we have to do something. We have to send out a statement, not just as myself as a student trustee for the Long Beach City College Community College District, but also as a board member for the Board of Trustees along with the Executive Board for ASB as a whole. We should release a statement. We should do something to say that we're standing with the DACA recipients and we're going to stand with them and we're going to support them all the way. Because, I mean, Long Beach City College, you know, these are the values I represent and we really want to continue moving forward and we want to be a neighbor to them. So once again, thank you so much for that and I really appreciate it. Other than that, that pretty much concludes my report, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Oh, and a question came up in that this meeting has gone, now it's 3 hours and 30 minutes, which considering the subject matter we had was been pretty good, and the fact that our budget, which is a huge, that consumed 90 minutes of the overall meeting thus far. That said, if you ever have things for homework, things of that nature, just let me know at the beginning of the meeting. I'll reorder the agenda to bring your item to the front where you can do that unless you want to sit here throughout this entire meeting or do your homework at your desk, which I wouldn't recommend. But there is never going to be a time that if you have other obligations as a student and you would like us, I speak on behalf of the entire board, we've done this previously, we have no problems at all moving your item to the front so you can then get on with your other things, including studies.
I appreciate that, President Kellogg, but I feel like I have a need to represent the people of, you know, specifically the students within Long Beach City College, and this is my first priority above my studies. So with that said, you know, if I have to stay here till 12 a.m., you know, with the board, I'm willing to do that. And I mean, I already do that for my homework and I don't really sleep. So, and I mean, I'm involved with Alpha Gamma Sigma Phi Theta Kappa, you name it. I'm pretty much, we're trying to restore the order of Thane as well. So I'm working on that. So, I mean, you know, whatever comes up, you know, I'm willing to stay because ultimately I love representing Long Beach City College and the Long Beach City College Community District. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're here at 12 midnight. That's a whole other subject matter. We're now.
Can I go first, only to answer why I threw people out of a meeting?
No, you can follow. You're ruining my whole sequence
Okay.
about why you threw people out of a meeting. We now have we have trustee comments. As I've tried to do, I rotate periodically. So this meeting will begin with Trustee Zia, followed by Trustee Baxter, then Trustee Otto, and then Malulu. So Trustee Zia, Vice President Zia, your report, please.
Thank you, President Kellogg. I'll try to be brief so I can yield my time to Trustee Baxter. I, too, want to thank our Superintendent President, Dr. Romali, for her statements on DACA and just the meaningful support that we're giving for our students. Hopefully they're coming and seeking the counseling. And I just wanted to reiterate that the board unanimously adopted a resolution, okay, as far as the support for our DACA students back in January. I believe it was January 24th meeting. And Trustee Otto and I had the pleasure of leading that committee and bringing it to the board, and it was unanimously passed. And again, to our students, you know, we're here for you. The legislators' office and the California legislatures have allocated about $30 million. We're California. We have, I believe it's 1 out of 11 people, if I'm not mistaken. But we should support you, and we will, and we are here for you in an unwavering stance. On another note, I wanted to thank our Superintendent and President, Dr. Romali, for doing a fantastic job on College Day on August 25th. I was blown away. I have to tell you, I've never been this energized. President Kellogg, you missed out, but you were there in spirit. There's a lot of videos. It was just fantastic. It was great to see not even an iota of me versus you. It's all about you, less about me. And I really, really appreciated that. It was refreshing. I could see the crowd just energized, and I checked back afterwards. There's people who just unsolicited came up to me and were like, wow, that's fantastic. I've never seen them this energized, so thank you for doing that. And I also wanted to bring up that I believe tomorrow we have a town hall. I plan on trying to be there. I think you've brought a lot of, one of the things that really wooed us as a board about you was your past performance on enrollment management. It's stellar, and you've demonstrated that in the last 3.5 months, as I made reference to it in my comments during the budget item. So I look forward to see what other transformations you're going to bring to the table. You're doing fantastic. Keep it up. None of our comments, at least I can speak for myself, it's not meant to be criticism. It's meant to be a process enhancement, and we can always strive for excellence. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And that's all I have, President Kellogg.
Trustee Baxter.
Yes. Okay, first let me explain why I kick students out of a meeting.
You don't kick students.
Well, I did. First of all, there are no students on any foundation associate groups except helping the homeless. And we, in our bylaws, have one student representative. So when the student showed up with 3 people last night, I said, one of you can come to the meeting, you decide which one it's going to be, but we have to follow the rules, which I know, Jorge, that you would agree with. So anyway, Paulo ended up being the representative, and we're glad to have a student at the meetings because they give a different perspective, and we're very pleased. One of the reasons we have that rule is because we do talk about specific people, students, and we just feel that there shouldn't be a number of students listening about how we're helping people. And speaking about helping people, I brought up at the meeting last night how we should help these 2 young men from Houston, and they agreed, and I will meet with Candace on how we can help. And Candace is a great City College success story. She's a reentry woman, had received scholarships, went on to Cal State, and now she's working for us. So I think that's just terrific. But that's the reason about the Helping the Homeless group. And I want to thank Officer Harris for stepping up and offering to help these young men, and it goes to show you what a great police department we have. On another note about the homeless, Trustee Zia and I have been helping 2 homeless students who have been waiting for the electric automotive class. And it's been offered 3 different semesters and then canceled because of a lack of a teacher. So David Gonzalez, the dean of CTE, told me about a month ago that they had secured a teacher and the class is going. So I think this is fantastic because this is an example of a class. All the buses in Long Beach Transit are going to shift from CNG to electric. And so we as a college should be at the forefront to make sure that we are providing employees who can work on those buses. So I think this could be a great relationship, and I'm not telling anybody what to do because I certainly wouldn't do that. But I think this is a good example of how we can tie CTE to the community, and it can be a win-win situation. So I'm very, very happy about that. I just wanted to remind people that the Hall of Fame alumni dinner is going to be October 12th. And we have 5 alumni who are being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I better use my fingers so I don't forget anybody, and I better not do an alphabetical order, but I'll try. Michelle Dobson, who is a prestigious attorney and community volunteer and a wonderful, wonderful person. And Amy, who is also a community volunteer, involved in many, many organizations in Long Beach. Jim Ostak, retired professor from here. He is a retired Navy SEAL. In his retirement, he's done a lot of community activities and been very, very involved with the VA. Oh, I'm getting there, don't worry. And then Brian Russell, who is also another very involved real estate broker and community volunteer. And I knew I was going to do this because and Jerry Green, who is an extremely successful businessman. So all 5 of these people are Long Beach City College graduates. So I gave to the Board of Trustees tonight an application to take out an ad. I've already taken my full-page color ad out, and so I'm going to encourage each of you to take out an ad to congratulate our trustees. And last night, the Homeless Committee voted to take out an ad because 3 of the 5 people being inducted into the Hall of Fame have been generous supporters to our program, and we wanted to say thank you to them. So thank you, Trustee Zia, for your help on that. On Thursday, there'll be a reception for the Hall of Fame inductees, and I'm looking forward to congratulating them myself, and I think it's fantastic. Okay, other things. On Friday night, I went to the Art Exchange, which was in downtown Long Beach on 3rd and Elm. And I have to tell you, I went there because I thought, well, nobody will be there, so I better make an appearance so they don't feel bad. There were hundreds of people there. And our faculty were there, our art faculty were there, our art retirees, our art students. It was a fantastic presentation. It's called Something Unveiled. We each got a catalog about it, and I would encourage anybody in the public to go down to the Art Exchange. They're open, and look at the talent that we have in Long Beach, and obviously specifically Long Beach City College. But this was one of the brainchilds of Brian Doan, who is with the art faculty, and many, many people on campus and in the community were involved in putting that on. At the same time, Trevor Norris is putting on a wonderful art exhibit in the art gallery, and it started on September 9th. I have not gone over there, but I will get over there before it closes. So we have such talented faculty, and I'm so proud of them and what they do and contribute. Then on Saturday, I spoke to a group called AAUW, American Association of University Women, and thanks to Trustee Zia, the college is a member of this group, and what that means is that our students can be members for a very small amount. They don't have to pay national dues and all that kind of stuff. And so at this meeting, I was asked to speak about the homeless group that Trustee Zia and I are involved in. And so it was Long Beach City College and Cal State, and it was really great because our presentation was more emotional, heartfelt, dealing with people. Cal State has a dean in charge of homeless. They've got this bureaucracy. I mean, it's fabulous what they're doing. Of course, I want to steal some of their ideas. But ours was more about the fact we have faculty involvement, student involvement, people caring about people on campus. And so our group, the AAUW, was very, very impressed with both. But it was interesting because they came up to me and said, how can we help you? I think because of the personal approach. And then at the same meeting were 2 of our scholarship recipients, and they spoke so eloquently, and I was so proud of them that they could convey their heartfelt thanks to this organization for their scholarships. And they spoke well and looked great and all that kind of stuff. Then on October 14th, I'm on a committee for the Alzheimer's Walk. And I met with Dean Mamone Knox and Executive Director Liz McCann about how we can get the faculty and the foundation involved and the students involved in the Alzheimer's Walk. Thank God I do not personally know, have a family member involved having had Alzheimer's, but there are many, many people. This is a serious problem, especially for my generation as we're getting older. And so it's very important to find a cure. So if anybody wants to get involved in the Alzheimer's Walk, contact Ramon Knox or Liz McCann. Then on, was that Friday? No, that was Thursday. I went to Bret Harte Library on the west side, and I know Vivian's going to talk about it, but what impressed me, again, was the commitment of faculty, staff, and administrators to be there and be excited about the program and talk about their areas, and that was just fantastic. And then the piece de resistance is President Kellogg and I served hot dogs at the Welcome Back luncheon. I also went to PCC for the luncheon, but the hot dogs weren't ready, so I couldn't serve any, but it was the highlight of my day. And that's my report.
Thank you. Trustee Otto.
I've got about a 30-minute report that I'll start with the words in the beginning and move on from there. No, seriously, given the lateness of the hour, I'm going to forego my report tomorrow and hand it over to Vivian.
Trustee Malauulu.
Thank you. I, too, would like to congratulate everybody, welcome the students and staff, faculty, administrators back to a really strong start. It's just been a great start. I feel the energy throughout the campus, both here at LAC and at PCC. It's inspiring to be around people who genuinely have this enthusiasm about every discussion that we're having. So it feels like, you know, we've been completely revitalized. I also would like to commend Superintendent President Romali on her response to the Hurricane Harvey victims in Houston, and also the quick response to DACA. Jorge, I'd like to echo what you said as far as the video. I also thought that that was going above and beyond. I was very impressed by that. And by the way, don't be discouraged with your 19 units. I often carried 18 to 22 units, and I worked. So you got this.
I work too.
You got this.
I serve middle schoolers.
See, there you go. And you'll be all the better for it.
She has kids. Top that one.
No, but I didn't have kids at the time.
I would just suggest don't get in this argument with her, but
I didn't have kids at the time when I was an undergrad. But anyway, I just want to commend you and thank you. And I hadn't read the email yet about, well, I wasn't aware yet, not that there was an email about our police officer supporting and identifying those two students. I had emailed Superintendent President Romali asking if there was anything we can do. Perhaps she knew people, we can extend some kind of, concurrent enrollment visit program for students who had been displaced in Houston. And then I found out that that was already happening. So that was really neat to be able to support those students. And the only reason I sent her that email is because she had been in Houston before. I would like to give 2 shout outs. One of them will be in my little calendar item, but the first shout out is going to be to dance professor Stephanie Powell, whose dance students performed in Massachusetts this summer. I've been in contact with her. She sent me some really amazing pictures. The program was called Jacob's Pillow, and she did a phenomenal job. Her students actually performed several numbers, and they closed the show with a standing ovation, and it really put Long Beach City College dance program on the map, and it made me really proud. I happen to know a couple of those dance students, and they weren't even the ones who told me. I spoke to Professor Powell and just asked her, because I remember she had approached the board and emailed us about it. In fundraising. So if there's a way that we can blow that up and get that out into the community, she should really be commended for what they did, taking our students across the country. Now, I'm trying to talk a mile a minute here. Again, echoing what Trustee Zia said, College Day was just an amazing event. I've been to lots of college days, and I never walked away feeling, hyped up. From beginning to end, it was really, it was a really good event. The music, the dancing, but more than that, it was very productive. I felt like things got done. I felt like voices were heard and people, their opinions mattered and direction was given. So it was more than just being a cheerleader. I felt like it was also an opportunity to settle down and to actually make something happen. Welcome Week, I was able to attend those events. I'd like to commend Ramon Knox and Taylor Robertson because they combined the traditional Welcome Week with the Club Sign-Up Day event or Club Information Day. So that was really neat to be able to have both at the same time. I thought that was very efficient use of time and space. He's not here, he left, but Professor Greg Mortensen was here for the majority of the meeting. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about that at the end. But on September 5th, I was able to meet with the theater club at the PCC campus. The PCC campus is in my district, and because of the construction happening here, they've been temporarily displaced to the PCC campus. So I'd like to welcome the theater department and had a really nice meeting with all of the professors, Carrero, Crane, Strufel, and Mortensen. And I'll talk about that in a second. On September 7th, the event that I've been lobbying for a year finally happened in my district at Bret Harte Library. It was really nice. I'd like to thank President Kellogg and Board Member Baxter for attending. I really appreciate their support. But most of all, I really want to thank the campus administrators and staff for an incredible showing. LBCC came out strong. There were just, so many people there from the college representing different departments. I'd like to thank John Pope. I'd like to thank Miles Nevin. You guys did a really good job helping me put the event together, covering all the bases. There are opportunities for improvement, certainly. Hopefully, we have an opportunity to debrief and to go over some of the changes we'd like to make in the future. While the college did come out strong, I feel like there were, it probably wasn't as successful an event as I had hoped it would be, and there are very specific reasons why, so I would like to address those. And on September 9th, and here's my next shout out, on Saturday the 9th in the morning, in mid-morning, I attended the Democratic Women's Study Group meeting, of which I'm a member, and I was really pleased to see, this is my second shout out, our faculty member from the counseling department, Lorraine Bluin, who was there representing the college. It was awesome that she was there. The subject was DACA, and she gave really insightful information about the resources we are providing for our students. So I attended just as a member. I wanted to know what was going on, and to walk in there and see somebody from LBCC on the panel, and it was really nice, and I'd like to thank her. She did a really good job. Later that evening, I was the tri-tip girl at the football game versus Saddleback. So I was there early and cooking up tri-tip with Augie. And by the way, that's another shout out that I should give. Augie is such a dedicated employee. Every home football game, the VIP reception, Randy Totorp did an amazing job realigning the VIP area. But Augie, he sits there and cooks all afternoon, and then he goes up to the top and keeps stats for the football team the entire game. I wish we had won. Obviously, we all do, but the food really won. The Black Student Union was there. They also had a buffet. So it was a great first home game. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I'm not looking forward to cooking and tri-tip cutting anymore. I did my time, but it was a lot of fun. And today, I attended the job fair. Just to give you some numbers, congratulations to Margaret and her team. Last year, we had 65 employers and about 600 attendees. This year, we had 75 employers. And in the first hour, we had about 150 attendees. I don't have the final count. I don't know how many ended up showing up after lunch because I had another meeting to attend for work. But it appeared as if it was going to be another stellar event. And I'm happy that Long Beach City College is having a community job fair. I'd like to see that happen every year. And the last three things, thank you to the faculty members and staff members who attended the float meeting on Friday. I appreciate that. I've gotten a lot of good feedback. I'm excited that some ideas are happening, and from what I understand, one of the lead cohorts from last year might adopt the float project. That's still pending, but it's exciting to see what we can do and give ourselves some identity in our community parades. Two exciting things happening in my district. One of them involves the theater department. I'm not going to tell you everything. I'm just going to tease you and let you know that I'm serious about putting the community back in community college, and together with the theater department, we are working on a very special project at the PCC campus that's directly tying the theater department and the community together here on campus. So I cannot wait to tell you more about it and to give you some specific dates. But Professor Mortensen and I have been meeting about this since last semester, and we've got all the ducks lined up in a row, and we're going to make it happen. So I'm excited. That was just a tease. And also in my district on Friday, October 6th, we are having College Radio Day, and we are focusing on a venue in my district, which is VIP Records, and that's going to be the focus of our college day with Mr. Anderson, whose family I grew up with and went to high school with, as well as some of the artists who have gone through VIP Records, and we're going to bring them into the college and have them be a part of our college day and focus. So I'm really excited. I'd like to thank Cheryl Williams, the Black Student Union, and the students at the radio station on campus for the hard work that they've done to make that happen. So it's been busy, a lot of meetings, but it's all good. And I'm really happy. Have a great year. Thank you.
Thank you. In a redo, the student trustee forgot to mention a few things, so you can go ahead now.
Just one thing. Tomorrow, we're going to have our PCC Join a Club Day. So we'd definitely love if any of the board members would be willing to come, 11 to 1 p.m. It's going to be in the PCC quad right outside the cafeteria. And I mean, we're going to have a barbecue along with other resources and booths. So 11 to 1 PCC quad tomorrow.
Thank you. Trustee Baxter, you also had something you failed to
Yes,
mention.
I'm sorry, as soon as Trustee Malauulu talked about the football game, on Saturday night, the Ron Logan Band Reunion is going to play at the football game. And if you were here in the 60s and 70s, like I was, this will be fantastic. These people are as old as I am. And they are fantastic musicians, and they're going to march around and play fantastic music. And I'm so pleased that they are coming back to perform for us.
Thank you. I get to be cleanup as far as this month has been very exciting. A lot of events have been going on, obviously, as you've just heard. So I look forward to it this month and getting everything going. Congratulations to everyone involved in all those activities. College Day, the one thing that I was not able to, it was actually a commitment I've been doing with my son for the past 17 years. The College Day, though, I hear it went along just fine. And so we look forward to continuing all these activities. It was mentioned about the football game. Our team is actually playing Moore Park this week. What I would like to see is that we did last week. And it really was well done, and they had a very good crowd as well for the Saddleback game. Unfortunately, the outcome. But I would like to see that, and we're going to do that. My understanding is that we're going to do something similar to that in the future. Just when we do, Trustee Baxter actually made a comment to me when we were there, is that to make sure we invite the full-time faculty to be part of that whole experience when we're sitting there, because it was a great time, and my apologies, I did not know Trustee Malauulu was the one doing the tri-tip, but it was outstanding. So congratulations on that. Also, since we finished up the athletic department, my thanks to everyone at the athletic department for putting that event on at the game. It was enjoyable, and it takes a lot of work. The athletic department also yesterday did with all their student athletes orientation. That was a huge crowd, and so it was enjoyable to be there and participate in my own way. So congratulations to everyone in the athletic department, and best of luck to our team this Saturday against Moore Park with the band, which is our band was. At the time, it was very well respected, and a lot of them just because of financial issues. But it was a band that people would come to the game to watch the band. And then our volleyball team is against College of Canyons this Wednesday, so I wish them luck as well. So congratulations, everyone. We're off and running. Congratulations. This meeting was not going to be an easy meeting, considering it's, as I now we're closing in on 4 hours, but again, I knew the budget was going to take some time, and actually most people thought we were going to be here past 10, so I'm happy that maybe that won't take place. So at this time, we now have the bargaining report from the bargaining associations that they want to.
President Kellogg, I think we have the trustee committees, item 9.5.
Trustee Kennedy.
Not 9.5. We went through the 9.4 as Board of Trustees.
Oh, you mean trustee committees? I'm sorry.
Right.
Trustee committees, there are none at this time that I...
There is one. The Elections Committee that Trustee Malauulu and I sit on. I just want to report back to the board that we are going to bring a recommendation by a resolution at the next board meeting. That's the update.
Is that's on the what's taking place with the state of California? On moving it, correct? Okay. That will be then the future. That actually, in the future reports, so that was under the trustee committee, but the future reports, as far as that would be under that area, and also the next item, 10.2, schedule reports upcoming. Then you're saying that. We also have other ones potentially there, web launch updates, student success scorecard, very critical, strategic plan update, and enrollment management, among others. So those are on the docket for the next 12 months essentially, but
And the 90th anniversary.
the 90th anniversary, thank you, is going to be presented at our next meeting. We had originally thought it was going to be at this meeting, but because of trying to get everything put in place, it will be presented at our next meeting. So with that, we're now to bargaining units. If any of them would like to speak, you have 5 minutes. I know we heard earlier from our full-time faculty, but if someone would like to, please do so at this time.
I'm Claudia Nguyen, the CHI president, as we met last month. Good evening, President Superintendent Romali, Board President Kellogg, and Board of Trustees. I participated in the first cohort of the LEAD Academy in 2015. It was an unforgettable experience. It was the first time in 4 years of working as a part-time instructor here at Long Beach City College that I had the opportunity to interact and to get to know my fellow colleagues from other departments. I was invited to the strategic plan retreat because I was a LEAD Academy participant. I went on to be part of the Friday Nighters, headed by the Strategic Plan Oversight Task Force. I even joined a committee. If I recall correctly, one of the Board of Trustees' goals at that time was the impetus for creating the LEAD Academy. And today, I am the CHI president for part-time faculty. You invested in our part-time faculty, and I am a product of your investment. There are over 1,000 faculty at Long Beach City College, of which approximately 700 are part-time. Many part-time faculty want to be involved in participatory governance. We are here to support student success. And in a most respectful way, CHI hopes that all department heads, deans, and the management team remember that part-time faculty are professional colleagues who bring a unique and valuable experience from other colleges, their corporate jobs, and some of them are entrepreneurs. You know, we should be treated thusly. I'd like to make a request and at the same time encourage you to continue creating and supporting these opportunities. You're building up leaders and creating a more inclusive work culture for every employee, including our part-time faculty. Thank you.
Thank you. And it actually was part of our professional development. So it's good to hear success stories.
Okay.
And by the way, just because if we get to that point, I'll try to wave and say you're at the 4-minute mark, even if you get to that point, instead of having the big red sign up there. So.
Okay. So Janae Hun, Long Beach City College Faculty Association President. Yes, I spoke earlier. I will be very brief. I spoke on public comments, so it would be awesome if this actually was earlier in the agenda. I'd love to not stay for 4 hours while my children are at home doing their reading and homework and waiting for mom to come home and put them to bed. But I just want to say it's been a great start to the fall semester. I have a super energized Sociology 2 class. It's just really awesome to be there with them. I do ask that you listen to our concerns with regards to negotiations. We did send the board and President Romali a letter earlier this week, and as we go through negotiations this year, we will be giving you more information and data to support our position, and just referencing our strategic plan. We've got some great words in this document, and I've really seen a lot of this in the last few years, investing in people and support structures for transformation. I think we're going through a transformative time, and I believe that I'm speaking on behalf of our faculty that investment in our salaries and our department head relief for more release time, as well as our lecture lab parity, would be an awesome way to invest in people and support structures for transformation. Thank you.
Thank you. The final item is public comments on non-agenda items, a total of 3 minutes. I have 2 speakers if they're still here. Samara Habash, and that's on DH release time. The other one is Marvin Basham. It's on Club d'Art, LBCC. Thank you for your patience.
Hey, good evening, everybody. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Samira Habash. I'm currently serving my second term as department head for the Communication Studies Department. My first term was in 2010. I took a 3-year break and then took the reign again in 2016. I'm here today to bring awareness that the formula in the master agreement does not provide department heads fair compensation for the number of hours that are required to effectively do the job. I'm specifically referring to the amount of release time department heads are provided according to the department head formula. Department chairs have a significant amount of responsibility, and their responsibilities continue to increase during a time with declining enrollment and an increase in full-time hiring. To complete the tasks that we were assigned during the 2016-2017 academic year, I logged in that I spent approximately 35 hours a week during the fall semester and approximately 25 hours a week during the spring semester, sometimes more on department head responsibilities alone. To provide you with a general idea of department head responsibilities, a significant amount of our time is spent on creating student-friendly schedules, staffing classes, organizing and conducting evaluations for probationary faculty, full-time faculty, and adjunct faculty. Additional time is spent on outreach and marketing, organizing and leading department meetings, responding to email, putting out fires, screening applications and conducting interviews, approving textbook and equivalency requests, attending campus-wide meetings, writing department plans and program reviews, overseeing course reviews and SLOs, writing letters of recommendation for full-time faculty and students who apply to four-year universities. According to the existing formula, I personally qualify for 30% release time. This means that in addition to fulfilling my obligations as a department chair, I'm required to teach 12 units one semester and 9 units during another semester. This also only allows me 8 hours, the formula only allows me 8 hours a week to complete department head responsibilities. Like I said earlier, I spend approximately 25 to 35 hours a week. This semester, through the appeals process, I was granted 50% release time. Having this extra time to focus on departmental responsibilities has made a significant difference. The extra release time provided me the time to help to manage enrollment issues. For example, with the additional time, I was able to review the schedule, and by doing that, I was able to preserve 8 sections and add 6 sections to the fall schedule in the Communication Studies Department. So the 50% release time should be the minimum amount for anyone who takes on the role of the department chair. The appeals process is cumbersome, time-consuming, and not a permanent solution to this problem. Today, my leadership students discussed the leadership style of Indra Nooyi, CEO of PepsiCo. Nooyi talks about the duty of care. Organizations have an ethical obligation to care about the well-being of their employees. Department heads are overextended. We spend a lot of personal time attending to the administrative needs of the department. Yes, faculty will probably continue to step up to be department chairs, primarily out of the fear of placing someone outside of the department at the helm. However, this isn't a reason to turn a blind eye on how overextended we are. Please support LBCC department heads. Department heads deserve more release time. The department head formula doesn't work and needs to be modified. Thank you for your time and thank you for the extension. I appreciate it.
Thank you. The other speaker?
Good evening and welcome. President Romali, board members, student trustee. My name is Marvin Basham and I am Vice President of Club d'Art Long Beach. And last year about this time, we embarked on a art project. And we were going to have a art show. And It's been an awful lot of work with the Visual Media Arts Department and hardworking students and the leadership of Brian Doan. The project was very successful. It's been the first collaboration with the Long Beach Museum of Art. Ron Nelson curated our show. The show is being held at ArtX Community Art Center downtown. It is titled From Within. It has been reviewed by the Long Beach Post. The Viking Press on campus is going to review it very soon. We have printed a 100-page full-color catalog for the show that's for sale to raise money for the club. And this summer, I've been to lots of museums, and this catalog is far better than the Whitney Biennial catalog. I know that many of you may have been invited. We're hoping that you get down to see it. And thank you, Virginia Baxter, for being there, because this show is spectacular. And I'm really happy to be a student here at Long Beach City College, because I did not understand the workings of this place until sitting here since 5 o'clock tonight. And really, I'm in awe of what you all do. I'm not a young person. I understand this, and I'm like, wow. So thank you for what you do. Come to the show. Thanks for your support.
Thank you. On that positive note, it's always nice to end. My thanks to my colleagues. This has been a long meeting, but it also, because of the subject matter we had, especially with the budget, not surprising that was going to take more time, but overall, we still were much quicker than everyone probably anticipated. There is no need for a second session, so without objection, the next meeting will be held on October 24th here at the Liberal Arts Campus. Without any objection, somebody asked me, and I said to adjourn the meeting in honor of the victims from 9/11, as we did have the 9/11 event that took place this week. So without objection, we'll adjourn in the memory of those individuals affected by 9/11. And thank you all very much. Without objection, the meeting is adjourned. Good night. Thank you.
Oh, 9/11. I thought it said 9/11. 9/11. Jenny.